All right, welcome back to another episode of Phoenix Edge. This is an RPG and gaming news podcast. My name is Hat,
And I'm Eric.
and today we are joined again by our good buddy Stan, who's been on a couple podcasts. And
Hello.
just stand there, and then we got Bio Phoenix. He's come back again. It's been a good while, maybe 8 or 9 months, but he's still around, so he's joining us as well. How you doing, Bio?
Hello everyone, this is BioPhoenix here, and yeah, I've been doing pretty good, and I hope everyone else is too.
Good man. Cool. Before we jump in, well, let me give everyone an idea of what kind of topics we're going to be discussing today. Obviously, as you can tell by the title, we're going to be going over as much as we can the RPGs that were talked about at E3 this year. There's a lot of them. So if we don't talk about a specific one that you're really interested in, let us know in the comments and we'll try to hit it up next week briefly or maybe more in depth, depends on what kind of information you can give us. But we're going to try to be as thorough as possible. But before we get into that, we do want to give our final thoughts with the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, if you're tired of hearing about this, we are going to have time codes in the description, so you can just skip to the long E3 discussion. But last time we gave our thoughts on it, we were like literally 10 minutes after the convention, and we're frantically trying to find interviews, and we just gave our raw thoughts. We were a little more collected on the Resonant Arc podcast, but even then it was like, I had my chance to give my little spiel. Then, we had Lore Runner, and then Eric, and then, Stan was there, then Tom was there, then Mike was there. And it was just kind of like, really didn't want to really say anything because it had already been like 45 minutes. So we figured we'd kind of get our little final thoughts out here now that we've had time to collect and think about it. But before we get into that, BioPhoenix, I hate to call you out on the spot here. I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but you have a YouTube channel, a great YouTube channel. And do you kind of want to introduce some of our listeners to what you do on your YouTube channel, so that way, if they're not aware, they can go check it out?
Oh yeah, it's cool. Basically, I mostly do a lot of like game reviews, and mostly being, on like a lot of like the more like obscure side of things. I do a little bit of everything too. Like I don't only just do RPGs, though I do love doing them, but I
Hmm.
can't do them like all the time though, because
Yeah.
I always work ahead of time on them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pretty much just do a wider range of like a lot of like different like games on different systems, and like I said, usually like a lot of the obscure ones. Like for an example, like I did like games like Shadow Hearts, and then I did ones like Grow Lancer, and if I could name one other one that I did, it would be probably something like um uh, I don't know. I've done a lot. I've done a
Yeah.
lot.
You've been doing this for like years upon years. So if you all go to his channel, you can find all sorts of games. Like literally, you could. I don't think you could leave his channel playing for like a week and you'd still have content to watch. I think you've played Japanese games and or games that only haven't been translated, and still somehow you were able to play them and talk about them. I've seen anime and uh, all sorts of RPGs you've probably never even heard of, and then other ones you have obviously as well. So definitely great channel to check out.
Yeah, just don't watch the really earlier ones. Those ones are not very good. Well, unless you want something to laugh at. But yeah, I've
Yeah,
improved a lot since then.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you go back and watch our first podcast video, like there's things about it I like, but there's things about it I don't like. It's like the minute intro I did. It was like really weird, and I don't know why I did that. I think I was like trying to make up for the fact we didn't have an intro at that point in time. But I just look at that and I'm like, God, I want to cut that out. And I know I can. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, like my first time too is like, oh, hi, I'm Eric. I like video games. Um, I really like RPGs.
well, thing is, you
Oh
don't even know if
man,
people are listening. Yeah, it's just it's awkward. So, but yeah, that's the thing. You improve over time and you develop a following, and you've certainly got one. So, um, but yeah, definitely go check it out. BioPhoenix. I just posted a link in the chat, and we'll have a link in the description as well, so y'all can go check it out. Stan, I don't think you got anything you want to plug? I feel like you've been on here a couple times and I've never asked.
No, not really.
Hmm.
I just like video games, and I'm kind of in that spot
Yeah.
you were just talking about. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Got to get used to this kind of thing, I guess.
Well, you're doing well. Doing better
Oh,
than
thank
we did.
Oh yeah.
All right, so let's transition into our first topic here. So, as some of you all have probably watched our prior episode, and then we were on the Resident Arc podcast as well, and we discussed the Final Fantasy VII remake. You know, we were kind of giving our thoughts on that, but we were still kind of trying to formulate what we wanted to say, and there were still all sorts of interviews that were jumping out, and it was really hard to stay up to date with the most current information. And we thought, well, this might be a good time for us to frame our final thoughts on what we think about the game, or what I don't want to say the game, but at least the E3 presentation and the status of the game, and then kind of give a more finalized opinion. But does anyone want to start us off?
I'll start us off.
Go ahead.
I don't feel that much different than before. Like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I mean, there's a lot of good things to praise the game for. First off, well, before I say anything, it's everything we say is just speculation.
Sure.
Everything could be executed well, and all our worries are just was nothing to worry about to begin with. But just looking at these trailers and just how everything's set up, I mean, there is so much room for concern and reason to worry.
Yeah.
Especially seeing things like Sephiroth appearing everywhere, the cloud. Uh, Now, if there's a good reason for that and a good addition for that, that's all good with me. But anyways, positive good stuff. Um, Obviously, the game looks beautiful graphically. The character designs look top notch. I mean, I really like. I mean, each character I've seen so far looks great, spot on to me. The battle system looks great. I really like that you can do has like an action type deal, and then you can switch to a tactical mode that makes it more like the traditional Final Fantasy VII turn-based type system. Really shows me that they'll likely bring a traditional like materia system back, hopefully. And like I said before, I like the idea that we get to see more of Midgar. Uh, if they do it well, is another thing, but I do like the idea we get to see more of Midgar, because that's kind of one of the criticisms I had of the original Seven was we only got to see like a few sectors of this giant city
Yeah.
that has like 8 sectors, and I really hope in this remake that we get the opportunity to see more of that. So I am excited for that.
Well, I definitely think we're gonna get that because they've confirmed that the entire game is going to focus on Midgar. So I think it's natural to expect we'll get to explore that a lot more so than we did in the original. Stan Bio, do you have any thoughts you wanted to give?
I'll jump in. Yeah. So, yes, we have been kind of critical of what we've seen, but really um, we're spending more time on what it looks concerning than we are what looks great. So, but to list the pros, like Eric said, the graphics look incredible. The characters, their designs all look both, slightly updated but still faithful to the original designs, which is very encouraging. And the gameplay looks great. And not only that, but even based on what little we know so far, we can see the kind of how it's a fusion, right, of the turn-based and action style. And that's something that most people feel that Square Enix has never really nailed, right? When they've tried to do that in the past, I suppose, uh, like the Secret of Mana slash Seiken Densetsu games is the last time people really felt like they nailed that.
Got it right. Yeah.
Yeah, but just from seeing like the decision they've made to tie healing and like potions to the ATB bar, to me that's like, so we're already better than Final Fantasy 15, right, which allowed you to you just had a giant inventory of items, and at any time when you took damage, you could just use one. There's no penalty whatsoever for just having to spam items to get through a battle,
Yeah,
right?
I
And that made it, yeah, that made it just so there's no sense of fear or doubt in the player. Like, you can be fighting an enemy, 20, 30 levels higher than you, but if you have enough high potions, like, you can win eventually, no matter how
Look,
poorly you
look,
play.
man, that
Well,
that game had a variety of ways to hold down that circle button. Okay, a variety of ways.
so it's just very encouraging to see, like, Final Fantasy 7 Remake, like, either by accident or they're purposely aware, like, of that criticism of the previous big game they just made, right? That it's way too easy for the player to heal themselves, and so now there's no danger, like, there's no present danger in these battles that, like, the player could actually lose.
right.
But in FF7, you have a bar that is required to be full in order to heal yourself, but then that bar is also necessary in order to do decent damage, it seems. You
Yeah,
know.
when I first saw that they tied using a potion to the ATB bar, I thought to myself, "Oh wow, like this isn't just they're not just throwing this in here to, appease some of the old fans. This is actually going to be fairly strategic." And when we did get that explanation of how the gameplay worked at the E3 presentation, I was actually shocked because prior to seeing that presentation, I was pretty much under the impression that party-based action RPG combat, with AI controlling your party members, I was pretty much under the biased opinion that it generally did not work. Usually you would get stuck with, I figured Barrett's machine gun arm was going to heat up when I didn't want it to, and he wasn't going to be able to fire, and they wouldn't be able to heal me when I needed to, or they would do something stupid that I didn't want them to. And, uh, you know, when I saw that they've added in that tactical element and the fact that, like, things are tied to the ATB bar, this seems like they've actually figured out a way conceivably to make it work. Now, I don't want to completely just say, "Oh, it's going to be amazing," because I haven't played it, and I don't think
Mhm.
anyone here has played it, but the gameplay wise, this does look really good. I'm sorry, Bio. I cut. I think it was your turn to talk.
Oh, it's all good. No, no, it's fine. But yeah, if I were to say what I think is that I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks good. I'm more interested into it now than I was before. For that, like the battle system. Like when I first saw it, it looked a lot like 15, and I was kind of worried that it was gonna play exactly like 15. But now after seeing more of it, there, it's like, well, yeah, this actually looks a lot better.
Yeah.
And another thing I do want to mention is that, like whenever you hear the word episodic, usually people think of, like, the Telltale games where, like, if you bought one of their games, it's like, well, if you bought one of them on a disc, like, it would only be like episode 1 would be on it, but then when you want to get the other episodes, you have to download them later or something. That's
Hmm.
usually what people think of, and I think in this case, I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's going to be more similar to, like, the Dot Hack games on PS2, where, they released, like, different, like, copies of the games, and, you can actually transfer your data from one to the other and all that. And of course, they were released at different times. I think I think that's what they're going to do.
Yeah, that's probably a better model to frame this game as than some of the other examples you gave. Absolutely, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about either two ways. The one they go like the dot hack route, where you transfer your game from one to another. The other way I'm thinking it might go about is the Xenosaga route, where it's like three full RPGs, but they are technically all connected to each other.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that. And that's funny too. That's like another one of my favorites too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it can go either way because they're so vague and like that's the thing with the whole Square Enix thing and why we're concerned to begin with. They're so vague with everything, and when we press these questions on them, they either spin around the question or they say, "Oh, we haven't thought that far ahead yet." So it becomes baffling to me when they say something like that. I mean, I'm thinking, like, do you not have a roadmap for this? Like, you guys have, for these past 4 to 5 years, have been only concerned with the remake at only at Midgar. You haven't talked to yourselves and said, okay, this is how we want to structure it. Episode 1 is Midgar. Episode 2, we want to focus on these points of the story. They haven't thought that far yet, which makes it concerning.
Now, I've seen some people suggest, in YouTube comments that they think perhaps they do know, and they're just not ready to say how many episodes. They don't want to commit to it. And if that's the case, I think a better response would be to say, yeah, we do have an idea or we do have a plan for how many episodes this is going to be, but we're not quite ready to reveal that. We really want to focus on this game because this is coming out in March. There's better ways to frame that.
That would be
Yes.
much better than we don't know, you know.
Yeah.
It
So
doesn't inspire confidence like
yeah.
Kitase saying, "Oh yeah, we're not sure how long the next game will be or how many episodes there are." It's just, what are you doing?
Yeah. I posted a comment in under Lore Runners Lore Week, just kind of saying, "Hey, it was a pleasure to talk with you this past week." Blah blah blah. But then I also gave some additional thoughts that I had with the remake in regards to the size of Midgar. And long story short, his response was essentially that he agreed with me, but he said something I didn't really think to point out was that he doesn't feel like, from everything he's seen, the developers working on this game, meaning the people that are actually day in, day out working on this game, want this game to take place in Midgar. That he doesn't think they want that pacing. So the people working on this game, you can tell they put a lot of love into finding those details. I mean, even in the Shinra building, you can see like the Japanese symbols on the wall, and the fact that Tifa has the red eyes, and the small little attention to detail for all the little nuanced scenes with the bosses and everything like that. Everything feels so authentic with the banter between Cloud and Barrett. The people working on this have a extreme love for this game. It's just, when you see Katase, and I don't think it's necessarily Katase's fault, but when you see people talking about this in like post interviews, the information they're giving is just almost souring it for me personally, because between Katase saying it's on 2 Blu-ray discs, which is baffling. He'll say it's on 2 Blu-ray discs, but then he'll say that they're not adding anything to the game. But then you've expanded 5 hours of the game to 2 Blu-ray discs. Like, both those things can't be true. So it's almost, or they'll say things like you all said, we don't know how long how many episodes this is going to be. So it just gives you the feeling like somehow there's been some corporate fingerprints on this to kind of influence the Midgar only section. And there's not much I guess you can say about that, because Square's such a big company these days that I don't think you're going to have a game this size come from them without a bunch of voices.
Here's the thing on top of this, I don't think people would be as critical either if they learned how to be transparent about their product. It, and I will say, Kitase is, from what I've seen in his interviews, that it is probably one of the worst choices for people to pick to go up and answer something. I don't think he knows how to answer a question or say it in a way that that can be like a somewhat satisfying answer. Like, they seriously need to go to Naoki Yoshida in their own company and ask him how to answer questions and how to do interviews, because he is the most transparent person in that company. You ask him any question in regards to like Final Fantasy 14 or any upcoming content or any concerns that people have, he is so transparent with you. He'll tell you the answer and he'll tell you why that's the answer. He won't just say no, that can't happen, or I don't know. Like, he will elaborate on that for you, and he'll give you an answer that, like, even if you're not happy with the answer, you'll understand why
Yeah.
it is the way it is. So it's so you get Katase who comes in, and all he's doing is spinning around the question and not answering it, and all it's doing is getting people mad. I think they need to get like they need to hire someone who's just really good at dealing with PR.
Like a
Because
Nintendo
apparently I
route.
don't know
Yeah.
if Katase or not, and
Well, they
just
had
have him answer everything for FF7 Remake.
that Neil guy come on there and explain the combat. I think he did a pretty good job, and he's supposedly senior marketing person, so
Maybe more of him.
Yeah.
more of him now that people kind of
Well, yeah.
know who he is. Maybe they can get more of like a Western face, I guess, that people trust.
Yeah. Well,
You know?
Now, to Hajime Tabata's credit, he at least was transparent about 15 in his videos. Like,
Yeah.
he was answering questions about it. Granted, we still didn't get a good product, but he at least was still trying to be transparent with us what's going on in the development of it.
Mhm.
And if they
Yeah.
could come out once in a while instead of like these big shows and tell us nothing, like give like a direct once in a while and just be like, hey, this is what's going on with FF7 right now. Here's some content updates. Uh, here's how things are going to work. Uh, do an interview with like Famitsu or someone like that, and I'm very sure people fan translate on Reddit, no problem. Like, just go out and just do stuff like that once in a while, just to know that the game's okay. They have a plan for it, and they'll be able to answer any concerns that people have. Right now, they can't do that.
Well, and the thing is too, if it's they did such a good job with the presentation and showing gameplay, lots and lots and lots of gameplay. And you see it all the time. We may even get into this a little bit later in this podcast where companies will just release these trailers. Square was really bad about this. They'll release this, awesome looking trailer, but it won't have any gameplay. And so, in many respects, their presentation on that front was fantastic. They had somebody out there explaining the gameplay and all these things. And, that was great. But then during the follow up interviews, it's almost as if they showed too much because they weren't willing to give anything else in the interviews. Every question was dodged, and it was back to the old Square Enix that we knew. It wasn't this new and refreshing image that we saw at E3 where they're sharing all this information. It was a completely different thing when it came to interviews because they didn't want to share anything.
The game is so close to release. How can they not show how exploration or side quests work in the
Yeah.
game, or
Yeah.
how you interact with people? Why couldn't they just show a small gameplay demo? That didn't even have to show gameplay demo. Just show in the previews, like besides Cloud running in Shinra headquarters, just like how you transition from one place to another. Be like, oh, you use the train. Oh, you use the motorcycle to get from places.
Yeah. So, it's kind of a two-edged sword here. I mean, on one hand, I'm very, very positive about what they've actually shown us with the trailers and everything and the gameplay, but the way they speak about this outside of that, I get very, very annoyed with because I don't feel that they're being as forthcoming as they should be. And I think that going forward, I'm sure they're going to start releasing more of that information and kind of clarifying some of these details we want to know. And so, really, I think to really get me on board with this game, the one thing that they have to really sell me on, and I'll go ahead and accept the fact that, Midgar's been padded out to be 30 or 40 hours. I'll totally accept that. If they can sell me on the Sephiroth and Genova story, it's obvious they're rewriting that. If they can sell me on that in a new way, a way that I haven't experienced, and they can make it to where it's just as satisfying, if they can sell me on that, I'll be totally in on this remake. And I think that honestly, that's where this game's going to live and die because they're changing that, and that's a core element of the game. That's the lore behind the game. That's the way your main character develops is that relationship. So they really, really have to sell this Sephiroth and Genova deal, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fair to say though that our level of excitement has all increased,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
At
Yeah.
least overall. So even though it seems like we're being very critical, which we are, um, like everybody here, I think is generally significantly more excited than prior to E3, right, or prior to State of Play trailer.
Right.
So they're headed in the right direction. It's just kind of we have some, we're swerving a bit, but we're heading the right way. I think.
They've already exceeded my expectations. I thought that once I heard that they weren't going with a turn-based system, I thought for sure it was going to end up being Kingdom Hearts. And nothing against Kingdom Hearts, that's just not what I want in Final Fantasy VII. And from what we saw, like this is actually exceeding my expectations on the gameplay front. This actually might be really good on that front. And just the attention to detail, like we were talking about before, with the characters and everything. So I definitely do not get the impression this is going to be a garbage dump at all.
Yeah, like they're nailing the gameplay. So if nothing else, if they somehow screw up Sephiroth and mess with the story, we're at least going to have a reimagined Final Fantasy VII that looks really fun to play, at the very least, right?
Voice-
That's like the lowest bar it looks like we're at now, and then maybe they can nail it, and go from an average game to a amazing game. Hopefully, that's what we're all hoping for.
Yeah, I have no doubt at all that the game will probably be really fun.
Yeah.
I think from what other people have said, like going behind the scenes, like playing the game, like everyone has had positive things to say about it. Like they found a way to like appropriately mix action and the traditional turn-based together, and still made it feel engaging and not like cumbersome or anything like that. So I have a very good feeling that it is at least going to be very fun.
So I don't really have anything else to say on this. I mean, I could go more in depth with certain details, but we have to have something else to talk about for the next 9 months. So,
It should have been FF8 that got remade.
oh God. Well, we'll get into that probably here shortly. But do y'all have any?
For it.
Do you have any other thoughts? Anyone else? Any other things they want to get out there or address on this presentation, or the Final Fantasy VII remake, or just anything surrounding that?
No, I don't have anything else to add to it.
Oh, Stan, Eric?
Release that demo, Square.
Be
You heard it here.
Square.
Release it, PSN. Do it. You want to play?
Make me happy.
Yep.
All right, so we got that. That was a really fun topic. Glad we did that. Okay, so from here, we're going to transition into essentially just talking about some of the RPGs that were announced at E3 this year, and specifically the ones that interest us. And what I've done here is I've created a playlist of every single RPG that was announced, I believe, at E3. And so there's about 30 games here. That's a lot. I don't know if we'll get through all of them, but we're going to kind of hit the ones that most interest us, and we'll see where this goes. So starting us off, though, does anybody have a game that most interested them that they want to break the ice with?
You know what? I keep forgetting.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start us off. So the first one in the queue is actually kind of interesting to talk about because I saw some controversy surrounding it after the presentation that I didn't realize. But this Pokemon Sword and Shield game, here, let me pull up the video so people can actually gameplay here. This gameplay is from GameSpot. But initially, my thoughts on this was that it looked cool. I might get it. I think it's kind of cool that you can approach the Pokemon out in the field. I think it's really interesting that it seems that natural. I like that. But that was about the extent of my thoughts. I like the art style, etc. But, I wasn't super hyped about it.
I think this is actually the most excited I've been for a Pokemon game.
Really?
Like I've always been like, okay, here's the next Pokemon type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But this one looks like it's like a it's like a console feeling Pokemon, and I just love the presentation of it. I like
That's true.
the setting for it. I like how the Pokemon are like out in the open field. I like the idea of doing like the raids and stuff. Uh, like that's something I want to get and just like uh, I think that's something I'm willing to collect all the Pokemon again for the first time in a very long time because the last time I felt like that was uh, when I had the blue version for Game Boy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's really the biggest thing that appealed to me, and I'm glad you brought it up, was that this looks like I mean, it basically is. It's a console version of Pokemon, which is something as a little kid, like I remember I always wanted was just, why can't they release this on the Nintendo 64? Like no one wants to play Pokemon Stadium. I want to play. I want to play a Pokemon Blue on the Nintendo 64 as a AAA title, and I was just baffled as a kid why they wouldn't do that. So this from that perspective is really cool, but I was surprised to see some of the backlash surrounding what was shown here. And just to give you guys some quick background here, I guess a couple weeks ago they started this cloud service that you had to pay for, and what this cloud service would do is it would let you transfer your Pokemon between games. Maybe this has been around for a little while longer, I don't know, but basically you have to
I'm
pay.
sorry. I'm sorry. Just know what you're leading to.
Yeah, so you have to pay money to transfer your Pokemon from one game to another. And that was, there's a little criticism behind that because people felt like that should be free. But regardless, whatever, people were paying for that. They already started paying for it to be able to do that. It's a lot of the push was, hey, you can do this in the new game, Sword and Shield, so you can see a lot of your Pokemon in this, this high quality version. Well, interviews with the developers after showing this at E3, they elaborated on that, and they said that essentially only certain Pokemon would be able to be carried over, which got people riled up. And then they detailed on it even more, and they said that going forward, all future Pokemon titles, you will not be able to catch every single Pokemon that has ever existed in any of the games in every single new entry. They said in order to keep doing that, that's just unfeasible. So they're gonna certain Pokemon that fit the region and the theme of the game are going to appear, but they're not going to have the last like however many Pokemon from all the games, and that made a lot of people upset because they just bought this cloud service thing and they thought all their Pokemon were going to transfer, and now there hasn't been any clarity on like which Pokemon aren't transferring, which ones are, and there's been some backlash surrounding that. I'm not using the cloud service, so I don't really care. But I don't
I
know.
guess,
What do y'all think?
I guess it's two things. Like, one, do you want your game in 2019? Because I can imagine making all those high res models for every Pokemon,
Yeah.
but set them back a good amount of time, and that's something they can do in like on a roadmap update type of deal, where
Right.
they can just add them over time and just give you the base game for now. I mean, I can understand a little why people might be upset. You are paying $5 a year. I
Is
hear
that
this Pokemon.
is
Yeah, it's $5 a year,
oh
not
my god.
like a month, a year
Okay.
for the bank. So I can understand that if even if it's $5 a year, you're still paying for a service, and you're hoping that they uphold that service to go to the next game, and they're not doing that. So there's room to be upset, but I don't think it's such a big deal that everyone has to get up in arms about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
I mean, you're still getting like a full game, and chances are they'll probably update it somewhere down the road.
Yeah.
They're probably just being hush hush because they don't want to say they will, and then turns out that they can't for some reason. So it's even like with the Super Mario Maker 2 controversy that happened
Right.
recently. People found out that you can't do the online multiplayer with your friends. You can only do it with randoms. So people got up in arms about that, and about a week or two later, they confirmed that they're going to add being allowed to play with your friends in the patch later. So chances are, people in an uproar about this, they'll probably get working on get working on that. It definitely won't be in the base game, but it'll probably be in some update in the future.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is, there's multiple ways they can release this, or just not at all for obvious logistical reasons, like you pointed out, Eric. But if they do release it more like maybe like I could even see a Super Smash Brothers styled release where every month it's a new Pokemon that's being allowed to come over, which could get people really excited. I think at this point, that might kind of just be salt in the wounds that they're releasing Pokemon that people already had or already played, but it could be they may have thought this is an exciting way to get the game out on time and get it in people's hands. Give them some of the core Pokemon that people expect. Give them Pikachu and Pokemon like that. But over time, maybe give them some more Pokemon, some more options to transfer over. Maybe.
Good. I mean, these games are going to fly off the shelves no matter how controversial it gets. So,
Yeah.
if anything, it won't put a dent on Nintendo at all. But
Yeah.
Nintendo does, well, not Nintendo, Pokemon Company in particular. They do have a tendency to answer these concerns in some way. I've seen recently. I'm not saying all the time, but recently they've answered to these like controversies and concerns.
Yeah, for sure. Stan or Bio, have you ever been big Pokemon fans in your life?
I'll go first. Yeah, I used to be pretty into the games before, mostly being Gen 2. That was like my favorite one with Pokemon Gold, Silver, Crystal, all that. And as of recently, I mean, I just been like ever since Gen 4, I've kind of just been burnt out on the series. So with this new game, I mean, it looks good, but it's probably not going to be something I'd get like anytime soon.
I'm
So
curious.
all this controversy stuff, I mean, it doesn't really mean much to me, but
Yeah,
I can kind of understand to a degree that some of the hardcore fans would be, you know,
disappointed.
yeah, disappointed by that. Yeah.
I'm curious. You said that you got kind of burnt out after Gen 4. You want to elaborate on that? Like, is there anything that you can kind of narrow down what got you burnt out or what got you there?
Well, it was really the fact that like I don't know, like I was kind of like that was around the time when I was like really starting to get into like more like other like RPGs
Yeah,
and at the time like I found like Pokemon was just getting a little bit too easy to just beat the game and the stories are just kind of like
seemed
not that
like
they're bad stories, they're just not like anything like crazy
spectacular.
anything.
Yeah,
Because of that, and they all started to like, they didn't really feel like they really evolved with me that much. I feel like I just kind of like, I know this is gonna sound really stupid, but I feel like I kind of like outgrew it to some degree. But I'll still go back and play Gen 2. Like I don't mind doing because it's something I grew up playing a lot. But of some of these newer ones, I'm not crazy into them there, but I don't hate them though.
sure. I actually identify with that because there got to a point in time where I was, because I got into Pokemon when I was really really young. It was one of the first RPGs for me personally that I did play. So with that in mind, I did get to a point where I just got a little bit older and I felt that oh, like this is for kids and I want to be an adult. I need to play more adult games. And so I can totally identify with that. I did go through a period of time where I kind of got over that, and I went back and played some Pokemon Blue back in the day, like I did as a kid, and I fell in love with it again from a different point of view. But I definitely can see where you came from. I think also a lot of the games, and this is kind of what you were alluding to, I think was a lot of them just can seem for a while there to be very similar to one another or a similar experience. So I think one thing about this game that interests me is this seems like a new way to experience that formula.
Yeah, one other thing I will want to add too is that I actually am one of those weirdos who actually likes the two GameCube games, Colosseum and Gale of Darkness. And the reason why I liked those ones is because they actually did do something different. And where you actually get to steal Pokemon from people, and you gotta like, make their heart from
Yeah.
darkness to pure and all that. I thought that was actually really cool. And also, like in the first one, Colosseum, like your main guy was actually kind of a badass. Where the other games, you're just some dumb kid.
Yeah. So it'd be cool if they could, if they implement something similar to that in this game. That'd be pretty cool.
You
Yeah.
know, the funny thing is that I have a gut feeling that more adults play Pokemon than adults do play Call of Duty.
Oh, definitely.
You know, I love that meme picture. That's like what Splatoon is aimed for, and it's like a group of kids, and it's like who actually plays it. It's like a group of adults, and it's like the same thing with like Call of Duty, but reverse. Who it's made for adults, but who it's actually for, it's kids.
Yeah, I saw that. That's funny.
I think it's a similar idea with games like Kingdom Hearts, for example. Like it was originally meant for kids, but mostly adults play them nowadays. It's kind of weird how that turns out.
Yeah, no more. It was like, well, go with it.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, that's
Stan,
all I got to say on Pokemon.
Dan, are you a Pokemon fan? You've been quiet over there.
I used to be. I think like most people. I
Just-
only made it to Gen 1, but I played the heck out of my Pokemon Red version.
So could this be the
Why?
game that'll get you back into it?
Um,
Probably not.
Most likely not. Yeah, I'd like to see them mix up the formula for Pokemon like completely. Like I always thought it'd be cool if you could be like a gym leader, right?
Yeah,
But
that'd
there
be
were
pretty
like
cool.
but there were like restrictions on you where say you're like the first one or the second one, your Pokemon have like a level cap, right?
Hmm.
And you are forced to use all of one type, kind of like the gym leaders are.
Yeah.
And then like trainers would approach you and battle you, and your goal is to try and be a gatekeeper, right? Like not only let through the ones that are actually ready, like actually prepared to beat you, kind of like how you're supposed to strategize as the player.
That'd
I
be
always
kind of
thought that would be a cool idea. Yeah, like flip the perspective, right? Make the players the gym leaders, and there's like um, essentially NPC trainers like trying to defeat you and get your badge.
yeah. I think that would be the general idea I would want to use is just how can we change this formula and do something a little bit different. And maybe some of the people that have played every single game can point to a specific game that did that, but I
It could exist. I don't know.
yeah, yeah.
I think they mostly do it through its narrative because I've only beaten Gen 1 myself, and I own a couple Pokemon games throughout the years, but I never really played them. It's like those times where I told myself I'm going to play it this time, then I go through it, and I lose interest because I feel like I've collected and accomplished getting all 151 before. So
Yeah.
that always got me to it. I really think this one will change it this time, but
I've done the first three games, so I guess the first three generations, and the general feeling I get is kind of similar to what I get sometimes when I see Star Wars, and that I'm nostalgic about it, but every new release, I feel like I've seen this movie before because it's the same premise and like the same character arc, but it's kind of they've changed a little bit of a few things here and there, done a different environment, different background, but it's the general character arc and premise is basically the same.
yeah, but what I have seen, and I did a little research on it a little while ago, it seems like they have stronger narratives each game.
In the more
Like
recent games,
it's not like very basic or bare bones or anything.
yeah, like
Like
it used to be.
they add like stories. Like I've seen ones where there's like Pokemon cults that you're fighting like while you're going to each gym
Yeah,
and
so they've
stuff like
tried
that.
to gel it up a little bit, jazz it up.
Yeah, and they have some like pretty epic final battles too, from what I've seen, like the stuff that's led up to it. So I think there's like a lot of exciting new things going on around the familiar formula. So I think that's really what brings people in each time is that there is an exciting new world to explore with like a new story, new characters. It may feel like a coat of fresh paint, but I think it's probably a very fine fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, for sure. That's about all I have to say on it. Does anybody else have any other thoughts they want to say before we move on to another game?
I just want to say that one idea I always thought would be kind of cool if they did in a Pokemon game is if you can actually like play as like like a member of like Team Rocket or something.
Yeah.
I always thought that would be kind of cool and kind of funny.
Yeah, that'd be awesome if they'd let you play as the villain. That'd be a
Yeah.
cool way to change it. I like that. Let's see here. Moving on though, we got a lot of games here, guys. So y'all want to touch on this Final Fantasy VIII remastered real quick because this was a surprise announcement for me.
Yeah, me too.
Character models look like a lot better.
Yeah, I wish I had a video up here right now of some of the comparison videos, but the character models look way better. Squall has an actual face.
He truly looks like the most handsome guy.
The best looking guy there. Yeah.
Best looking guy there.
Yeah, so this looks really really good. I did notice that the Cloud, or I was gonna say Cloud, Squall does look a little bit younger. I think for some reason he looks a little bit older. I think in the original, but it doesn't bother me as bad for this because per the lore he's supposed to be 17, I believe. So
That still bothers me so much.
does it?
Like these kids that like should clearly be like in their mid-20s.
Yeah, that's true.
And
I
then
thought they were
who's
in
an
their 20s.
instructor is only a year older than them.
Yeah, dude, she's okay. She she is entirely at least like 28 or 30. Like,
She looks like she's in her late 20s, early 30s. She doesn't look 18 at all.
yeah. But with that aside, because we can talk about the flaws or the things we're unhappy with Final Fantasy VIII all day. But as far as
itself.
but as far as the remaster, there's a lot of anger. I was surprised that this was not getting a port to the Switch. All the other Final Fantasy games, apparently everyone forgot about, Final Fantasy 6, 5, 4, etc. But everyone was like, oh, like, why isn't Final Fantasy 8 coming to the Switch? And we found out it was because they lost the code, apparently, and they just they could only use the PC version, I guess. And so this was a really big surprise that they were able to get it done. I saw an interview with somebody, a developer at Square. I wish I remembered his name. This would be a way better story. But he was talking about this process of finding these old games. And he said like Square has an entire department devoted to finding the code for a lot of these old games. And sometimes it just takes a really long time to locate it because they have to go through old computers they haven't thrown out and try to locate the files. And he gave one particular example of a game. Again, I wish I could remember the name of the game, but they found the code for the game on a former employee's computer that he took home with him and never gave back or something like that. So it's just surprising the amount of length they'll have to go to find some of these games. I just wonder why they won't just go on like Google and download the ROM or something. That seems like an easier option, I guess, but I don't know.
It seems like for this remake in particular, it is kind of, besides the graphical update to the characters, it looks like it got the bare minimum. Besides that, they haven't announced if they changed the systems or anything, but if I feel like they would have said something if they did already, since it's coming out this year, and they could easily say, hey,
Yeah.
we revised the junction system, but I think it's probably going to be the way it was, especially with the fact they have instant win. Like, this is like instant win button to the max that they put in this version.
Yeah, because it just gives maximum spells.
They give
or maximum, because I have it on PC, and I think what it is it's basically it gives you like 99 or something of every single spell. So essentially, it's not necessarily God mode, but if you with that junction, you pretty much have like 10,000 HP.
Yeah, they added even more.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like you can get like 99 of Okay, I think I found it. No, I didn't find it. But anyways, it has things like you get all the cards button, the triple triad cards button. You get all items needed to upgrade your weapons.
Oh
You
my
get
god.
all magic
What's the point of playing the game?
buttons. And I'm thinking to myself, isn't this game already broken enough without you putting this button in here?
It must be.
Because
I was
you
gonna
can
say,
break this game as soon as you start it, essentially. And they're like, hey, why waste that hour breaking the game when we'll just do it for you right here and now? Like, I can understand wanting to make a game easier, even though Final Fantasy VIII is already a very, very easy game, even without breaking it. But like, I don't understand why they have to add that stuff in. It's like, oh, it's for people who enjoyed the story. It's like, then what story are you or narrative push are you getting out of it when
All you do is move the character back and forth. You don't do anything else in the game.
yeah, when you one hit that boss that's supposed to be difficult, the narrative is supposed to be that boss is very difficult to beat. And you're supposed to feel that struggle and that satisfaction of when you beat the boss because the game's not going to show you them fighting them and it being real tough. Like the gameplay is supposed to do that, and you take that away from the story when that happens. It's the same thing like when you kill like 100 guards, but then like the next scene happens and three surround you, and you're like, oh no, I've been caught by three guards. Like it feels off because you just killed 100 of them. So,
Yeah.
but now think about it: if like five super soldiers and it's like really hard for you to beat them, and then when you beat them, then like 10 come out after that. And then you're surrounded and taken in. It's like you understand because these five are just really hard to beat, and 10 come out, and you're like, okay, I've been captured. I get it.
Yeah.
So when you take away stuff like that with like these instant win buttons, I feel like it's like a some kind of artificial way of just taking away that on top of the fact that you're like doing yourself a disservice not giving you challenging enough content, even if it's on easy mode or not.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is you do not have to use these bonuses, even though it is very easy to use. It's very tempting to. They don't necessarily give you an option that I'm aware of. Be able to start the game and not like kind of restrict yourself by not giving yourself the ability to use those. Usually, what I do with those types of cheats is I don't even look up how to use them, and that usually keeps me kind of self-contained in the game and playing it the way it used to. The only one I do look up is the speed up feature, usually because that just I don't know that just makes things much more enjoyable for me generally.
Oh,
Th-
I'm for that mod
besides,
for
yeah,
sure.
besides story sequences, because just seeing the dialogue move that fast isn't appealing to me. But for traversing town and going through battles and stuff, like okay, whatever. I'm tired. Let's let me speed this up real quick. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I find the speed up feature in all these like older games, like when they, get like, ported over and such. I think that's like one of the best features you can add in there.
Yeah, for sure.
I can just imagine that part when you go to the prison, like in disc 2. Like I can imagine that fast forward button just being beautiful to have because that is a tedious dungeon to get out of.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Yeah,
many floors that look exactly the same.
yeah, absolutely. So one thing that I did think though, when I first saw this, was I thought they remade the game from the ground up, like they did with Kingdom Hearts, I believe, when they remade that. But they just made it the exact same the way it was, because when I saw the character models, it was so much better. But as the game went on, I saw they were using a lot of the same font and everything, and it clicked with me like, okay, they just polished up the characters and some of the sprites or the character or enemy models and things like that. So, but all in all, hey, you can play Final Fantasy VIII on the Switch. Did we get a release date for that, or they just said coming soon?
2019.
2019. That's it.
Yeah, I actually have a question though, and maybe you guys caught it and I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Do the backgrounds look upscaled to you at all, or is it like Final Fantasy 9 and 7 where they didn't?
Let's
touch that.
let me look at this trailer again and check. I thought it looked upscaled to me. Let me go here. Okay,
I mean, they show battle screens.
so I'm trying to get
That's
to a
not.
point here. Yeah, I'm gonna put this in slow motion here, so I don't, because it's a trailer. It moves like from scene to scene.
Well, these screens are the 3D arenas.
Yeah. So
Where
what
they
are you
don't use
looking
the
for? Like
background.
the in towns and stuff like that?
Yeah, they had
All right. Let me see if we can
compared.
find one in here somewhere. Because that is a good point. Those are gonna look better than. But they don't
Yeah,
show anything that I can tell. They show a lot of FMVs. They show um, combat. That was a good catch. They don't show any actually moving through towns or anything like that, which is surprising.
okay.
And that's one thing I'm curious about. I want to see what that actual character model looks like. The one I'm going to be looking at most of the time.
It's hard to get a feel for it. Like I'm looking at a picture right now. I'll send the picture over to you if you want to put it up.
Sure.
With a Squall and
Quistis.
Quistis walking down the hall.
And this is from the remaster?
Yeah, it's a screenshot they sent. That's a comparison between the original and new. It looks a little better. I can't tell. That's the only real picture we got.
See if I can get this over in our tab here so I can show everyone what you're talking about. But we're sure this came from the remaster, right? From the Switch port.
Yeah, this is I got it from Gaming Bolt, but I think a couple websites have this.
That's pretty
compared.
credible. Yeah, so
see like out of combat.
So this looks a lot better. So on the left-hand side, we have the original PlayStation version. This still looks like it's not being played on HD television. This is actually on the left-hand side of what I remember as a kid, right? This doesn't look that bad, honestly. But then you look to the right, and it's just miles better. Let me see if I can send this. Did you send this to? Can you send it to BioPhoenix and Stan so they can see also? That way they're not just listening to me.
Oh, I see it on the.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, so on the right-hand side, this looks a way better. Obviously, if you look in the face there, he looks a little bit younger compared, I think, to the left, which is obviously not as detailed. But he just looks older on the left-hand side. Maybe it's the position of the camera. It's more closer in his face. I don't know. But Quistis looks basically the same. So obviously a little sharper. So, but it does look really good.
Yeah, I mean the character models look great for what they are, especially since it's like still within a PS1 game technically.
Yeah, it looks like a PS2 game.
Those backgrounds will get upscaled or not because it'll stand out a lot more with these remade models if they don't.
Yeah, I think that's honestly, and that's the biggest reason I think to get these remasters. Obviously, is just a new way to experience the game. So,
Yeah, I'm looking for a reason to play it again. So
we're yeah, Stan or Bio, were you all fans of Final Fantasy VIII? Are you excited for this remaster?
Me, I'm not the biggest fan of Final Fantasy VIII,
Okay.
but a lot of that
Enough
has
said.
to do with a lot of that has to do with Final Fantasy VII being my favorite, and then playing Final Fantasy VIII almost immediately after, and not being too happy with how it played and the story and everything. But I haven't played it in a long time, and this remaster looks like the perfect time to jump back in and give it another chance. At least I should do that.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm curious if with this remaster, if it's going to have the similar music bug issue that they fixed it with the Final Fantasy VII, but the Final Fantasy IX still has it too. And Final Fantasy X had it also, but they fixed it with 10. They still haven't fixed it with 9, where you get in the overworld whenever you get into a battle and then you finish the battle, the overworld music starts over. It doesn't pick up where it left off. And it's not that bad until somebody points it out to you, and then you'll never notice anything different. It's just infuriating after someone points it out.
It's
So
pretty
sorry.
baffling. Huh?
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. I just bursted your bubble. So I wonder if this version will also have that bug. I suspect given 7, 9, and 10 had that problem, I suspect this one will too. But Bio, how are you with Final Fantasy VIII? Are you excited for this remaster?
It looks good, at least graphically. As for the game itself, I mean, I think the story in FF8 was pretty interesting and, you know, had some good moments, but my main issue with it was that I just hated the level scaling where, like, it pretty much just made you, like, not want to grind ever because you're just making it harder for yourself. And, you know, I just thought that was just really freaking weird. But I know that other complaint that a lot of people have with the junction system, that never bothered me as much. But of course, you know, if in this remaster, I hope they could, like, you know, speed it up a little and all that kind of stuff. But as for the remaster itself, I probably would get it like on like a sale, like down the road, just to try it.
Yeah, I'm sure that around the, well, it depends when this comes out, but especially on the Switch, they tend to do really good Black Friday sales and stuff like that. So I could see something along those lines. What's that?
Speaking of which, Square Enix is having a sale on their stuff right now.
Oh, really?
I just checked last night, and like Final Fantasy 7, 9, 12, their Square Enix games on the Switch are on having a sale right now. So if you've been looking for an excuse, like saying I'm waiting for a sale, then there you go, check it out. You're welcome, Square Enix.
Yeah, they did not pay us to do that. We did it out of love. So Stan, I know that one game that you pointed out that you thought was interesting looking was the Outer Worlds. Do you want to kind of talk about what you thought with that?
Yeah, well, I'm not really into
second.
those type of games normally. I'm more interested in kind of the.
Hold on just 1 second. I'm sorry.
Oh.
There's some kind of weird thing that's going.
Got
Audio real
feedback
quick.
or
A little like kind of like a noise here. Let's see. Go ahead and say something.
We good? Still there?
I don't know if that's coming. You can hear just fine?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, like I was saying, I'm not really sold on the game itself yet, but I'm just very interested in kind of what happens, like kind of in the WRPG world, because I know a lot of people are looking at this game because of the developer, right? So it's developed by Obsidian Entertainment, who I believe the most recent game, at least the notable like most recent game they did was Fallout New Vegas, and that game scored worse like review wise than Fallout 4 after it. But if you look at the user reviews, like on Metacritic, it's better received than Fallout 4. And there was like a notorious contract that they had with Bethesda where they had to hit a certain Metacritic score to like make their bonuses on the game. And they notoriously missed it by 1 point. And nobody got their bonus from Bethesda because they were contracted like out by Bethesda to make this Fallout spin-off game, New Vegas. And now they've been acquired by Microsoft, which is interesting, and they're making this Outer Worlds game that really looks like they're trying to capitalize on the Fallout franchise's struggles recently, right? And really kind of siphon those fans of that style of game over to them, since they've proven that they can do it, because Fallout New Vegas was very well received, and now it's not Fallout, you know, it's Outer Worlds. It's the same genre, but it's a different style, and then they're really trying to steal Bethesda's thunder, I think. So it's interesting.
I'll add on to this for you that I've never been a major fan of Bethesda RPGs. Like, I didn't care too much for Fallout 3 or Fallout 4 or the Elder Scrolls games, except the third one. But something about New Vegas got me hooked in, and I played through that and enjoyed it.
Yeah,
So I think, and I know why, because it was a different development crew who made it. I guess they actually focused on making it fun, I guess, and not boring, in my opinion. In my
yeah.
opinion,
There's
but
the
that makes me excited to play the Outer Worlds, knowing I can get a similar experience like I did to New Vegas, and it looks like a brand new world, not just another um, Fallout post apocalyptic.
yeah,
Because each one has looked the same to me, honestly.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. It's like they're really um, I don't know how else to put it other than they're trying to steal their thunder. And another thing that's interesting is they're acquired by Microsoft at the end of last year. They bought them, and Microsoft has actually been buying up studios like one by one. They got Obsidian, and then I know the previous E3 they announced that they got Ninja Theory, which made the uh, what is it called? The
Heavenly Sword, they
Heaven, yeah,
made
yeah,
DMC Double McCry,
yeah. So
Hellboy
they
reboot one. They
Hellblade, that
did
was it, yeah.
Hellboy Setsuna. So
Yeah, and then
some
and then this E3 they announced they acquired Double Fine, which I know is a studio that a lot of people like. They have like Psychonauts and stuff. So
mhm.
Microsoft is like it's out there, but kind of very quietly under the radar, like building up their own uh, developers, like into their internal studios. And I think they know the reason they lost this generation to Sony is getting all these other developers that are just pumping out exclusive games for them that are just must buys, right? God of War, Spider Man, stuff like that. So Microsoft is like, oh, so this is what it takes to win, and they're learning their lesson. It looks like buying up these studios. So
It is interesting that Outer Worlds was another victim to Epic Games strong arming the PC version.
yeah,
So
it's like a
that's
timed exclusive
another
for them, or
concerning thing. I think it was originally supposed to be on Steam, and then Epic came in and strong armed them into being exclusive for them.
yeah,
For Microsoft, though, I think they're going a very clever route with this. Like, they're not just simply just acquiring them and then just like you can only play this on the Xbox One. They are still offering options to get their games out there.
mm-hmm.
Like even down to they're allowing their live service on the Switch
Yeah,
and mobile devices also. I don't remember, but it may, and of course Banjo Kazooie being in Smash, which also
mm-hmm.
means that the door just pretty much opened for them and Nintendo to work together. It looks like Microsoft's angle here is not only to be in the competitive scene, but also get their stuff out to other consoles uh, to try to make a have your cake and eat it also type of scenario, where
Mm-hmm.
you're not only getting good sales from your own consoles, but you're also getting good sales from people who decided to buy other stuff than yours.
Right.
I think they're going a smart route here. I just hope it executes well.
Yeah, and I hope that they succeed, frankly, because more competition is just better. We as consumers end up playing better games in the long run when the console manufacturers and the publishers and developers are all competing against each other. So
Yeah, but I'm still crossing my fingers for a Switch port of the Banjo Kazooie
Oh man,
HD
that'd be great.
remaster they put on 360 and the Rare Replay. I'm like, come on, put it on there. They didn't
I bet
announce it after Banjo's reveal, but I can
they
still hope for it.
imagine if they put it on the Xbox Games Pass, right? Which you can access, I believe, right through the Switch, or at least
Hmm.
some portion of those games.
Yeah, so maybe
They would sell a
of
lot of Xbox Games Pass if they did that, right?
in a way,
Be
it'll
pretty
be
cool.
able to. I hope. Uh, did you have any thoughts about Outer Worlds? by you?
I actually don't even remember seeing the game at E3 to be honest. But after looking at it now, though, it looks pretty good. I'm still not really 100% sure on it because I'm not really crazy into like that style of gameplay. I mean, I think I would maybe like it. It's just it's just one of those types of games that I'm not 100% sure on. But you never know. I mean, it looks nice. Graphics look good and all that.
I
I'm kind of the same in a way. Like every time I see a Bethesda RPG, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the one that will finally get me into it. And then I decided to buy it, and like after an hour or two of playing it, I'm like, I don't feel like playing this anymore. Like it's something like that. Like I got a few hours into Skyrim, like 15, 20 hours into it, and like I was already getting bored with it, going from one place to another, and everything just felt so lifeless and soulless. So I mean, it just turned me off immediately. And like I
I
said, Fallout New Vegas was an exception for me. Something about that game, like I just felt like going from one thing to another.
Yeah.
So like I said again, like I'm really looking forward to Outer Worlds, because I feel like I'll get that same experience. On top of that, I really love the aesthetics and the graphics of the game. It looks new. It looks refreshing. It looks like the characters have life to them. They don't look like boring NPCs that just say words to you and then go away. No, I have seen some gameplay where the setup and like how you speak to everyone does seem very Fallout like, but it still looks like it's presented in a manner that I can get into.
Yeah, at
Um,
least it actually has like a style to it that doesn't look very, typical 7th gen kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where everything was just brown and gray and like
Right.
that's this actually has like color to it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
weird because you know, the
Any thoughts, Hat, or are you still having technical difficulties over there?
Oh.
yeah, can you hear me?
He has this
What?
thing on mute, so
Yeah.
Oh. Can you
Okay.
hear me now?
Yeah,
You're
we
back.
can hear you.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry guys. I kept hearing some like buzzing when y'all were talking, but then I messaged Joker on Discord and he was like, "Yeah, I can't hear any of that." And I was like, "Huh." So while the video was playing, I like deconstructed while I was trying to listen to you and set it back up. So I'm glad everything looks good now. But just to mimic what y'all were saying, this I think the Fallout, I don't want to say influence because obviously they worked on New Vegas and everything like that, but it does feel like a Fallout game. Like I don't feel like that's inaccurate to say that this is clearly supposed to be kind of that same, give you a Fallout vibe, but I think it's definitely going for its own thing with the fact that it's even more sci-fi, right? And as you guys have pointed out with the bright colors and everything like that, it's going for a even more sci-fi vibe than the other Fallout games. So um yeah, I think it's really cool. It's really exciting to get the developers of the one-off New Vegas game to come at it and try their hand at this style of game again. This may be the the game that everyone falls in love with over again. So yeah, I'm keeping an eye on it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Let's go from here. All right, so it looks like we got Elden Ring. I see that up here. We might as well talk about that as well. Did you all have any thoughts with that? Because I can think of a few.
Assault is going to be so real. Like who are two people that can make like the greatest salt mountain ever? And it's like they found From Software with Dark Souls and George R. R. Martin with Game of Thrones, and put them together. It's like, oh, the minds are going to be filled.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how his story plays into this. And I don't know if he put his heart and soul into the story or if he just kind of looked at it like, well, I'm going to make some money off this. But a lot of times you see excellent storytellers go to a different medium and suddenly it falls flat. So off the top of my head, I'm thinking, Sakaguchi tries to make a movie and it was abysmal. Obviously, there was reasons out of his control around that, but he was really good at telling video game stories, but not, he didn't really have experience making films. So I wonder if he will be able, if his story will transfer through with this game. But I kind of wonder if maybe he has an advantage because he spent 20 years writing for television and also writing books. So I think with those two combined experience, I would think that he'd be able to help with the story here and have it transfer over in a way that it still feels satisfying.
From what I heard, that this the story of the game,
hmm
from what from what I read in an interview, that what George did, he set the foundation, the world,
So he
the
created the
rules.
lore.
Yeah, he created the lore, the world, and the rules that apply to that world. And From Software is going to take that foundation and make an open world RPG and make a story out of it. So like, it's like kind of like Witcher in a way, where you can create your own story through Elden Ring, and then George can still write books through the lore of that world.
So he's doing more than just creating the setting. Like, hey, there's these people. Here's their history. Blah blah blah. Now, game developers go make the story that you want to tell. He's actually going to have stories of his own that happen in this world. Do we know that? Does anyone here know?
If I had to guess, I would imagine that he set the foundation. He's going to let them like create a story or game from it. Probably because George himself probably doesn't know how to write for a video game in particular.
I think he
Like, you can
could write for
translate a
one,
book
but
to a
not.
TV show.
I think he could write for a video game, but not this style.
I think it has to go both ways. I think George approves of like the story points of the game, and then From Software works on executing it to work as a video game, a story driven video game usually does. If I had to guess, because I don't think George has ever written for a video game before. Because, like I said before, you can translate a book to a movie. It's really hard to translate like a book to a video game. That's probably why we never got like a direct adaptation of any of the Witcher books to the game.
Right. They kind of did their own thing a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. This like right when I heard about this seemed like a perfect blend of minds here, or the meeting of minds. And I like the idea of it, but the general trailer that we saw, like it seems very dark in tone, and like it doesn't feel like something George R. R. Martin would write. And I don't know. It just kind of like it almost seems like his name is just on there to sell this, but maybe it's more like you said, Eric. He's kind of setting the foundation of it. I wish I got to see more of the actual game part because the actual imagery itself is really weird. It has like a what looks like a woman, I think, or maybe a man with a crown, and it has like some like torn off arm that's like on the limb itself that like all these other arms are holding, and it's just very very strange. I don't really get it, and everything's so dark and just gloomy, and I'm sure that the lore itself explains it, but I don't know. I need more for me to say whether or not I'm going to buy this.
Now, From Software did say this is going to be a passion project because this is something they've always wanted to do. They're a big fan of George's books, not just Game of Thrones in particular, but they like the series of books that he's made in the past. So
Yes.
they said they're like more than happy to work with him on making a game. Like, this isn't just like a business crossover, good business deal type of
Okay,
thing.
so
Like,
my
they're
interpretation of that
passionate
was
about
wrong.
making it.
Yeah, my interpretation of that was wrong. So
It's only things I've read. So
yeah.
Because people have been asking off the wazoo about what kind of game this is going to be, but we only know things at a conceptual, fundamental level. So beyond that,
Any other thoughts on this game?
Well, I'm interested just because George R.R. Martin is such a big name in the fantasy world. I'm interested to see how it turns out. I'm not ready to dive in when it comes out necessarily because I've never read or seen a single episode of Game of Thrones. I know you're wondering how is that possible, but
hey, I just started recently.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not alone then. But the
You all are strange.
yeah, I was gonna say like if you, it's interesting if you tell somebody who's like really into the show or the books that you've just never
Hold
picked
on.
it up and
Okay.
not into it. They're like,
I have a quick little thing I have to say here.
okay.
So I'm an accountant, right, at my work, and we have a couple different. We have an accounting department, and the person that does the payroll usually, she just looks over at me one day and she says, and there's a couple people in the room with me, right? And she says, "Who's Jon Snow?" And like immediately I'm like, "Oh, like that's Game of Thrones. Like, what are you talking about?"
Well.
And like everyone's like, "Yeah, who are you talking about?" And she's like, "No, like somebody created a profile in our system called Jon Snow." And everyone immediately was like, "No, it's just a dummy profile." Like that's, and like she couldn't grasp that. And then she realized she was like the only person in the room that did not know who Jon Snow. And of course, it was a dummy profile. Like the person that created it thought like it would be obvious, because who has not watched Game of Thrones? But apparently, my coworker. So yeah, it is kind of strange when you come across people that haven't seen it. So
We exist. We're out there. We're just hiding. We don't want to be called out for our unawareness of the cultural phenomenon of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, the non excitement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bio, have you got a chance to check out the Game of Thrones or the Elden Ring, the trailer?
The Elden Ring trailer, it looks pretty cool. I like the visual effects, and also like I'm a pretty big FromSoft fan. I always have been. I've always enjoyed like their older stuff, like before when they did Dark Souls and all that. And I also like the newer stuff that they do. So because of that, I think it's gonna at least be a very interesting game at the very least. So yeah, I don't know. I think like I'm interested in it, but of course there's no gameplay shown, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
I think it looks cool.
So this sounds like you would be interested in this game regardless of whether it had George R.R. Martin's name on it or not.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I mean, like I've only watched like a few seasons of Game of Thrones like a long time ago, and I haven't been keeping up to date with it. But I remember liking the show, but I've never read any of his books, and because I'm not a huge reader, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, a few seasons, that's nothing to scoff at. That took some time, so I can respect that.
I will say I'm on season 8 now, and like starting at season 7, it's just gotten really stupid from here. Like,
it gets worse
at this point.
It only goes downhill from there. So, anyways, we're diverging too much. We got some other games to hit here. So,
right. I think I do think there is a game we feel we need to
throw it out at me.
The Keanu Reeves game.
Oh, Cyberpunk.
Right. I think people would be disappointed if we didn't bring this up.
Yep, let's bring this up. So we got Cyberpunk 2077, and obviously the big reveal with this was Keanu Reeves at the end. Yeah. Did anybody watch this live? Because I was shocked to see Keanu Reeves actually appear on stage. Well, first off, I was shocked that he appeared at the end of the trailer, and then I was shocked that he was actually on stage. That was a great moment.
I saw that live.
Yeah,
that was the highlight of Microsoft's E3. Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
You're breathtaking.
No, you're breathtaking. Yeah, that was great. Even if it was teleprompter, I don't care. It was awesome.
He seemed
that was
that part wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even though he was reading off the teleprompter, he seemed genuinely excited about the game. Like even though he was kind of stumbling through it and kind of caught up in the moment, he was still genuine. And from what I understand, he's a pretty genuine kind of guy, for kind of down to earth person for somebody who's got that much fame around them, you know.
Yeah, definitely. He seems like a really cool guy from everything I've seen with him stopping to take photos with fans for a half hour, and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But what I think is such a genius pick for having Keanu Reeves involved with this game is if you look at some of the imagery, obviously this is very sci-fi and stuff like that. And a lot of his movies are kind of like that realm, or he has gone through that period of time. But there's a couple of scenes in here that feel very Matrix like with the main character walking down this like crappy hotel hallway and knocking on this door and you know uh, it just feels like almost these Matrix type vibes, especially
Yeah.
with like the combat and stuff. So seeing Keanu Reeves at the end, it just feels like a natural fit. Like if this were a movie, I think that Keanu Reeves would be in the movie.
Oh yeah.
Can I
So,
mention just how graphically beautiful this game is?
oh, dude,
It's probably one of the best looking games I've ever seen. Like the
this
attention to detail is just absolutely insane.
yeah, this is the future. Like when I think that, I think like, wow, this is amazing. This is exactly what I expect. Like I kind of got to the point where like stuff doesn't really impress me much, but when I see this, there's points where I almost forget that this is a video game. Like it like it looks like so well detailed. You can see every little piece of hair on his face and like in his hair on top of his head. It's just staggering the amount of detail that's in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like to the point like if I was like looking, if I was like at the end of a hallway looking at a computer just like a little bit from a distance, like I would think that's like actual people.
Yeah,
They're
it's
interesting. Like the motion capture is so ridiculously good.
yeah, I can't even, and I can't even imagine when I watch this, I think, where will they be 10 years from now? It's just amazing.
Yeah,
So
no doubt.
yeah, this trailer got me really, really excited for this game. I was kind of excited, but it kind of looked just like a weird idea that I wasn't quite sure about. Maybe, some kind of weird tangent that they were working on that may not pay off. But after seeing this trailer, I've really gotten kind of hyped about this game. I really want to check it out now.
Yeah, I mean, the only CD Projekt Red game I've ever played is the Witcher series. I don't even know if they make more games than that.
Yeah,
But
that's the only one I know, honestly.
yeah, so this will be like my first game from them that's not that. So I was kind of just like staying in the middle. Like I'm excited to see what they have next, but I don't know what they're capable of outside of the Witcher series. But it looks like everything's in good hands so far.
Yeah.
Like every trailer I've ever seen for the game, it's just made me say, "Yeah, I definitely want to play that."
I was sitting here while we were talking, wondering why the video started to buffer. And then I realized that YouTube started playing it immediately in 4K. And I was like, oh, let me put this at 1080p. Suddenly the whole thing loaded real quick. So, anyways, definitely looking forward to that game for sure. It's going to come out a month after the Final Fantasy 7 remake. So my goal is to have the Final Fantasy 7 remake completely done to a point where I feel completely satisfied. Meaning, if I need to do any bonus content or anything like that, I want to have that game done and just kind of like out of my system in time for this game. So hopefully Square doesn't delay the 7 remake because then I would have to play that over this game, unfortunately.
I have a
So,
good feeling you're probably going to beat the FF7 remake before that comes out.
yeah. Well,
I have a feeling it's not going to be that long of a game.
like 11 hours.
Maybe.
Hopefully a little bit longer than that. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
But anyways, so that was a really cool reveal. Um, we have to talk about it because it's on our thumbnail. But dude, The Witcher 3 on the Switch, Jesus Christ, I did not expect that. Like me and Eric were talking about this previously in like private messages, and we we've seen this before a little bit, but it popped back up again recently, and we were kind of like, dude, there's no way we're gonna talk about this because it just seemed like a too good to be true. There was too many doubts in our minds about this. I think Eric was a little more optimistic than I was, but uh,
For a change.
yeah, for a change. But Jesus Christ, when this appeared, I jumped out of my chair and I was like, oh my God, they're trolling us. Like Nintendo is trolling us. There's no way this game is showing up on the Switch. I could not understand how this could run on the Switch because, when I played on the PlayStation 4 and then compared to the PC version is so much smoother and buttery, just like so buttery and just like swift with the combat, and everything moves so silky clean, and it's just so enjoyable to play. And when I play it on the PS4, like sometimes things seem a little choppy and it's just not as smooth. So I was just imagining this playing on the Switch, it would be even worse. But it looks like they've kind of pick and chose the textures a little bit. I've seen some people compare some of the textures to the PS2 era, but whatever, man. I'll play it. It's on the Switch. I don't care.
Put that and its expansions all in one physical cart.
32 gigabyte cart. Yeah. Apparently,
that's pretty crazy.
The only other 32 gigabyte cart was Final Fantasy 12, which I was surprised. But regardless, and the Japanese, I think, release of Final Fantasy 10 and 2, they put that whole game on one cart instead of making you download the other half. But yeah, I could not believe they put this entire game on one cart, and it appears to be running. It's supposed to be at basically 720p. I think it's like a progressive 720p or whatever, reactive, docked, and then it's supposed to be around 540p in your undocked mode. And you know what? That's probably perfectly fine on that small screen, and it's probably just going to be that much more enjoyable just to play in your hands, like in bed or whatever. I think it's just going to be a novelty item.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason you would get that is for the handheld aspect. I would not, unless the Switch is your only console and you don't have a PC. There is the only justification to get it really is the handheld aspect.
Yeah, because if you're playing a docked,
you would obviously want to get a version you can at least get 1080p out of it, and it's like 540p for docked mode or handheld mode.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they said it's 720p dynamic resolution. So that basically means that depending on what's going on with the game, the resolution could dip lower than that in order to keep the frame rate constant, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, right? That's, you don't want these massive frame drops. So yeah, if you're playing this only in docked mode, then, I would have to wonder, do you not own this on the PS4 or, the PC? Because that would be the ideal way to play it that way. But portable mode, I'm all in, dude. All in. I could see myself playing this for a half hour a night in bed before I pass out every night. I'm totally in. I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a person that's on the go all the time, then that Switch version's perfect.
Yeah, and I think this really puts to shame some of these other companies that say they can't port games to Switch. I mean, you have Witcher 3. I mean, like that. If Witcher 3 can come to the Switch, like your game can probably come to the Switch if you put enough work into it, anyway. So
yeah, exactly. I think you can put anything in there. Like we have Doom, the 2016 Doom, and Wolfenstein 2 on there. So if you put the effort in, you can make it work.
Yeah, for sure. So I definitely wanted to touch that. Did y'all have any other thoughts before we switch to another game real quick?
Well, I'm not really excited about the Switch version, but that's because I never finished the PS4 version. So I'm way behind.
Yeah, I got you.
I got to get back on that and finish the game properly on, the version I have first before I jump into it again on a different console.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's okay. That. I haven't even played it at all.
So hey, yeah. So if you haven't played it at all, that's the thing. It's kind of got a weird audience to pick this up because I can't necessarily recommend this version of the game if you've never played it ever before, right? Because I couldn't recommend this because it's just even some of the before and after photos or kind of side by side video of the The Witcher 3 on the PS4 and Switch. Like it is impressive what it looks like for certain scenes on the Switch, how much they were able to keep some of that detail. But there's other scenes where you can just tell, like they removed all the little flowers and like all the different things in the grass, and they took all the stuff that was flowing through the air and everything like that, and really kind of broke it down to a mobile experience, which is fine to get it on there. You have to do that, which is understandable, and I applaud them for what they were able to keep. But I definitely couldn't recommend this version on the Switch if is your first time playing it, unless that's the only way you could play it. So it's kind of a weird. You have to
Yeah.
go after those people that really enjoyed the other versions. So,
Yep.
Trials of Mana, or let's do Collection of Mana, and then we'll do Trials of Mana. Eric, you said you bought that.
Collection of Mana? Yeah, I got it.
How you enjoying it?
I will say it's the best version to play those first 3 games. It's the frame rate is stable. The option to save state and load state is very convenient especially for those type of games. I think the first one, Adventure of Mana, is the only one you can save anywhere because it was a handheld game. But the other ones kind of have like a save spot type of deal. So it's convenient to do that, even though you can go into sleep mode on the Switch. But besides that, it's the same games. I guess Trial of Mana is probably the biggest one to bring up because this is the first time it's ever been brought here from Japan, and the translation seems pretty normal. It's given what it's supposed to. It's not. It's the same game.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. The over here in the West, the only version we've had to play this whole time was fan translations if you wanted to emulate it. So this is the first official localization. It seems like it's pretty good.
Yeah, and yeah, that seems fine. I've played about 2 hours of it, so I can't say too much about it yet. But I'm a little iffy about the combat because here's the thing: people are familiar with Secret of Mana, and like when it charges to like 100%, then you strike, and it has that like strategic element of dodging your enemy and knowing when to strike.
Yeah.
Type of deal. And Trial of Mana, like, and someone please explain it to me if I don't get it. But like after you hit someone, you go into a like staggered, like a small staggered like mode for like 2 seconds, or like 2 to 3 seconds, and then your character goes back to the way he was, and then you can hit again. Now the thing with this is you're always in combat. You stay in this combat mode stance when enemies are around, and you get out of combat when enemies are gone. So when you hit an enemy, you get in the staggering phase, and then you're wide open for the enemies to attack you. And almost every time, the enemies have been able to attack me back. So I'm thinking to myself, am I kind of like playing a turn-based game now? Because I don't have any way to dodge or get out of the way or move myself back after I take a swing. I just make my character go backwards and hope the enemy doesn't hit me. So that's what I've gotten out of the system so far. And I kind of looked it up, and I was like, am I doing something wrong? And no one is like mentioning that specifically, which I thought was really weird. Because so far, that's been kind of a turnoff for me, that I can't feel like I can dodge something. And I don't know if that's just intent by design and you're supposed to get hit.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I'm fine with that, but it doesn't come off that way, especially playing the first 2 games where they, want you to not get hit by enemies.
Yeah, you brought that up to me, I think the other day, and I had a similar experience that I wasn't sure if I didn't quite understand a mechanic or if, it was just a design flaw or, what to really make of it. But I've kind of I do think, okay, first off, let me say the third game here, obviously, I think has the best gameplay of them all. And it's just a giant improvement, I think, over the second one. See, Secret of Mana, I'm talking about the second one in the series. Jesus Christ, for me, I had so many issues with that game the last time I went to go play through it. I mean, between the fact that like my character would just get stunned every time he gets hit, and I'd be stuck in these hallways where I'd have a complete full bar of health, and I'd get hit one time, and my character would get stunned, and then like these enemies would just surround me, and just I would just be stunned for like a minute and a half the entire time, and like my character health bar would go from complete full to zero, and I wouldn't even be able to move. And it would just be so aggravating when I would die like that. It didn't happen often, but when it did, it was just so frustrating to me. And then, the fact that when you go to buy items, it it doesn't tell you it does something weird, like it doesn't tell you if uh it improves your stats before you buy it. You just have to like hope it does, and then you buy it and find out, oh well, I guess this doesn't improve my stats, and you're like, well, that was a waste of money. It's just like things like that that really bothered me, but I do think that it's definitely a classic for when it came out. Great graphics. So, but I'm sorry, the Trials of Mana, or the name they're going by now. Anyways, I definitely think I haven't beaten it or anything, but from what I've played, it's definitely a sharp improvement. But I had similar issues to you even then with that one.
Yeah, the biggest issue I have with Secret of Mana is definitely the hitbox, which feels almost non-existent sometimes. Like I can't tell if I'm swinging like correctly at something because there's not really a strong means of you knowing if you hit the enemy. And there's no I don't know what's the right word for it. Like there's no like recoil from like the enemy much.
Mm,
But Trials of Mana, the hitbox is definitely a lot better, and like you can feel the enemies got hit when you hit them a lot better. Like
yeah.
there is a little bit of Secret of Mana. I won't discredit it that much, but it's doing. But I think Trials of Mana just finally nailed that part,
Yeah, it's
which
a
is
much
definitely a good
more
thing about the game.
refined system, that's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and
baffling that version didn't come out in the States till now. Or I shouldn't say just the States, because obviously there's other places besides us.
it is technically the most dialogue heavy of the three, so
Yeah.
maybe it just missed the mark. It did. It looks like it came out in 1995. The
Mm,
game, so that is
maybe,
late into
yeah.
the Super Nintendo life cycle, also.
Yeah, by the time they would have localized and everything, they're on to next year. Yeah. How do y'all feel about this remake of the third game? Looks like Trials of Mana.
Well, from the gameplay that I saw at the Nintendo Treehouse, it looks really good. But then I found out that after the fact, I was reading an article about it, and it says that there's no multiplayer for the remake version, which is
Oh wait, Trials of Mana, like the 3D remake. There's no multiplayer.
it's for the time being single player only.
That's dumb.
Which is yeah, that was I was like, ooh, tough sell now. Right before I was like, yeah, I'll jump into that someday, but no multiplayer and no like even announcement of we're working on implementing multiplayer in the future. And that now I'm hesitant to jump
That
Yeah,
into
might
that.
be hard because you would either have to make it go split screen or you would have to add online elements
Mm-hmm.
to let other people join, and then you would have to deal with save files in that
Mm-hmm.
online unless you join like that person's game.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot of complications to it that probably does make it a
well,
lot harder. Now, if it was still like top down, it
yeah.
would probably still be just fine doing local multiplayer. But the way the 3D is in that game, it would be hell to try to have three people on the same screen
Yeah.
trying to combat. And I guess they don't want to put in the budget for online support.
Well,
Yeah.
So
here's the way I look at it. There's all sorts of action RPGs that come out, party-based action RPGs that come out today, even from, Square Enix, where people don't ask that question. So Final Fantasy 15 or even the 7 remake, I don't think I've heard that many people say, well, hey, can I play this multiplayer with my friends? Can my friend, control Barrett while I control Cloud? And we can play that way and take down the Scorpion, and that might be really really cool, but no one's really expecting that, right? So, but with this game, especially with the second one, people really have these strong memories of playing that game with their friends. So when the Secret Mana 2 came out, the remake, that was a huge source of contention among fans, was that it was not multiplayer, with the online component, so they couldn't play with their friends. And so given that there was so much outcry about that with the second game, I'm surprised with this version or this game that they didn't bite the bullet and just do it, you know? But this does seem like a much higher budget game than the remake of Secret of Mana.
Oh, definitely. It looks like they're just like rebuilding the game from the ground up. And the Secret of Mana uh,
That was not a
remake
good
on
port.
it felt like just like a port they just upgraded with like 3D graphics, and
It was a money grab.
Yeah, it almost felt
wasn't-
like the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I was just saying it wasn't the worst thing. Like it's a more than feasible enough remake, but it was just like extremely bare bones to the point that you could have just released the original game in just like HD quality.
I like that it showed like the original like pixel art maps for your map or whatever. That was kind of cool, but that was about the highlight of my experience with that game. So, but Stan, were you about to say something?
Well, I was just going to say the Secret of Mana remake, it almost looked like the art style that they were going for was almost like they were already thinking about like being able to port it to mobile. That's all I thought about when looking at that game. Like,
yeah, they
I
were
was
kind
like,
of. It was a product. Yeah.
It's
yeah,
funny you
it just
say
looks
that
like
because Adventure of Mana got a remake and put on mobile first before hitting the Vita, and those two games almost look exactly alike.
yeah.
Secret of Mana looks a little better, but
just from looking at it from the art style, I was like thinking like that looks almost like they're trying to sell it to us on console first at full price before they eventually port it to mobile to try and get more sales. So
yeah. I mean, technically, Secret of Mana is on mobile, just the original version, though.
yeah.
All right. Let's see here. There's still like a ton of games, so let's see. Let's kind of go through these and pick which ones we want
I
to.
think if I thought of another popular one on this list,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of these we can probably just talk about a few minutes. But I think another one probably to speculate about is Tales of Arise.
Yes, let me pull that. I'm glad you brought that up. Hold on, let me find that trailer here. Trails of or Tales of. I almost said Trails of Arise.
Aren't you a Tales fan, Bio?
Oh yeah, I like Tales.
What do you
I
think
like
of Tales of
and
Arise?
Trails.
How do you feel? Given you're a Tales fan, how do you feel about Tales of Arise? Did you watch that trailer?
Oh yeah, I have. Not live when it came out, but I watched it afterwards. And
What'd you think?
honestly, I actually really do like the new look that they have because it doesn't even look like a Tales of game at all. Like if you just like if you took out like the title and everything, I never would have guessed it would have been Tales. It's like holy crap. But yeah, no, I like the way it looks. Now I haven't played like a Tales of game in a while because they've been pumping them out like so fast and they haven't been giving me enough time to actually get through most of them lately. But I think this is one I'm looking forward to it. I think it looks like a nice change up and it still looks good.
Yeah, the I think you bring up some good points. It's just with the way it looks is it doesn't necessarily look like a Tales game. I think until you start seeing some of the character models, but you know, of all the things I liked about Tales of Berseria, one of the biggest complaints I saw from hardcore fans is a lot of people felt like that game still looked like a really good looking PlayStation 3 game. And that they
That's
didn't
'cause
really
it was a really good looking PS3 game.
and
They
they
got
didn't
ported to PS4.
yeah, and they didn't feel like they had the PS4 Tales experience, right? So when I look at this, I'm just like, this is astounding. This is like a major upgrade. This is exactly what I was hoping for with the next game. Just the level of detail in these environments is just phenomenal, and then the character models are still kind of that cell shaded look. I could get that kind of art style like all day, and I would just eat it up and ask for seconds. It's oh man, this looks really really good. I don't know anything about the story. It might completely suck, but from an artistic standpoint, I'm all about it.
This will be the first Tales game where Hideo Baba is not involved.
It'd probably be
Since,
fantastic.
well, Hideo Baba started directing after Vesperia,
Oh
and
well, he's
I
always
mean, just in my personal opinion, I feel like the series went downhill after
yeah.
that. With Berseria being a nice exception to that, but
That's
in the first Zillia also, the first Zillia was also good, but this one looks very promising. This is like the first actual PS4 current gen Tales game that we're getting. So I'm interested to see how they're able to evolve from that point.
Yeah, I know like with Berseria, like they pretty much been like using like the exact same art style from Exilia 1 till there. So yeah.
Yeah.
They've been using the same graphics engine, it looks like also.
Yeah, it's not the same art style, but the same graphic engine and all that. And I mean, it looked good like for a while, but you know, at some point they needed to change it up. Like,
This the story itself, I don't know anything if they've released any kind of synopsis or anything surrounding it, but it looks very interesting. You have this uh very talesy type looking character with pink hair, but then you have this other guy with like white hair that has this like mask around his face. It like burst open at one point, and there's lots of battlefields with like burning flags and all these bigger than life enemies that are breathing fire, and just like it just looks like a bigger than life game. And I'm really really happy to see that Tails has kind of gotten to that next step in their storytelling, because they've been around forever, dude. Like I was playing what's the name of the Tales on the Super Nintendo?
Fantasia.
Yes,
Fantasia, yeah.
I was playing that because I have on my PS Classic. I'm able to emulate all these games, so I've been kind of playing some more retro games lately. And I was playing that the other day, and I was like, man, this franchise has just been around for so long. So I'm happy that they're actually kind of stepping up to the current gen here with this game, and it looks so good. This looks fantastic.
I'm just looking up the story synopsis right now. They do have a small paragraph here. It says, the inhabitants of the planet Dana have always revered Rena, the planet in the sky, as a land of righteous and divine. However, the stories passed down across the generations have distorted the truth for the people of Dana. Rena has ruled over Dana for the past 300 years, pillaging the world beneath the resources and the people of their dignity and freedom. And the plot is, the story begins with two people born in different worlds, each looking to change the fate and create a new future. The two characters we saw were named that they're referring to are Alphen and Shion.
So it seems as if I had maybe this is just the way the trailer's made, but typically with Tales cast of characters, you get like a giant cast of characters, more than two. And it seems as if this story's maybe more focused on just these two from what we can see, which is kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, from what I see, it looks like these two are going to be joined together at the beginning, and their differences are probably going to collide with each other, with their different ideologies being from two different worlds.
So they're conjoined together like spiritually or something?
It says
we don't know.
here that they physically meet together. Like it says, Alphen, a mask-wearing man from Dana who had, of course, lost his memories, JRPG trope, and capability to feel pain. So he can't feel pain, apparently. Borrowing the blazing sword from Shion just after meeting her, he fights for his freedom from Rena. And Shion's kind of reads the same, except she's like the opposite.
Very, very interesting. So this really surprised me. I did not expect this from them. I expected a game that looked a little bit better than Tales of Berseria, and maybe some more refined gameplay, because Berseria had a great story, but the gameplay I just did not enjoy at all. So I was hoping for something with a little bit more in the gameplay department and still tell like a really awesome story like we got in Berseria. And I thought we'd have a really fine Tales game, but man, they really stepped it up here. This is impressive. So
Yeah, they're putting this is one of their probably their bigger budget ones. Like
Yeah.
you know how they kind of have like those lower budget in between feeling ones.
Yeah.
Like I felt that way with like Tales of Hearts and Tales of Graces.
Xillia 2.
Oh god, I hated Xillia 2.
Yeah, Xillia 2.
Yeah.
The Xillia 2 just makes me mad. That game. Not like playing through the game itself, but like the concepts they put in it, like the debt system, like forcing you to do side content and to pad it out. And then the fact that your silent protagonist can talk in New Game Plus when the game clearly feels so weird without the protagonist talking. They're like, oh, don't worry, if you play it again, you can actually have the dialogue. I'm like,
What were they
what?
thinking?
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
Oh man, that every time I talk about that game, it actually gives me a headache.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's-
that game frustrates me on a fundamental level.
And it's
So-
a shame too because Xillia 1 is actually one of my favorite ones too. So like I was pretty hyped for it. So
I like Xillia 1, so that's what when we were talking about we kind of brought this up at the end of the Resident Arc podcast. We were kind of on our closing out, and we were just like quick little tidbits. And Mike was just playfully like, I've kind of lost my touch for Tales games. I wanted to say, man, I've been playing some Tales of Vesperia, and that game is phenomenal. So shut up, Mike. But
I really like Xillia 1 just fine. I think my biggest criticism of it is there was no point in making two separate stories in the game because both of their stories have like very particular moments are not together. So like 90% of the game they're together and the other 10% is like they have their own moments. I feel like this could have just been joined together in one game. It would have been fine.
yeah, I can agree with that.
But besides that, the story was good.
I think this specific game, Tales of Arise, besides it having like a goofy name, this definitely feels like a game I'll purchase on the day one for sure. For me, anyways.
Oh, a goofy name's always to be expected.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not that surprised, but I do see that it only says PS4, Xbox One, and PC. I'm not seeing a Switch release on here, so
This might be like a higher end game graphically.
hey, we just put
Maybe.
Witcher 3 on the Switch. I don't want to hear that.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Set the bar.
Yeah.
Balls in your court, Bandai Namco. All right.
We're like, hey, we're doing enough here with this thing. Like,
Yeah, one thing I do want to mention that I thought was kind of, different was that it seems like lately, whenever they announce like a Tales game, it's always at the Microsoft conference. Like, with last year they showed the Vesperia remaster. Now this year they showed that, and it's like, I don't know, this is kind of different,
didn't they have an exclusive title that came out on an Xbox at one point?
That was the Vesperia.
Vesperia.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
like
made-
that one I kind of understood why they showed that one on like the Microsoft conference last year, but like for this one though, like to do it again though, it's I don't know, it's kind of
Yeah,
interesting.
that's a weird ally to align yourself with, given you are a JRPG. You would think that you would want to align yourself with Nintendo or Sony, who have a higher representation in your home country. But
Well, Nintendo's conference was pretty packed, right? Or not conference, but their direct was pretty packed, and it looks like this game's not coming to Switch, at least not initially. And
Yeah.
Sony wasn't there, so
yeah, what do you expect them to do? I guess
they were running out of options. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
that's true. That's a very, very good point. I didn't.
Need all that room for 3 houses.
yeah.
Oh boy. Should we? I don't know. We can hit that real quick if you want. 3 houses. I don't even know what to say about this game. I just don't. I'm not looking forward to this at all. I think.
I just don't like the setup.
Yeah.
I think the gameplay looks good. I like the combat, and I like how
I like the art
it
style.
zooms down to like you and an army around you, so it actually feels like a battle.
Hmm.
like in a war. So I like that, but I don't like the high school like setup of like three high school factions, and you're like a mercenary professor teaching them to fight and stuff like that. And there's supposed to be like story development in between.
But it's supposed
Like,
to be like Persona too.
I guess so.
I should
And
say Persona also, not Persona 2, like number 2.
it just doesn't feel very Fire Emblem. Like, if the game's good, it's good. And I'll be pleasantly surprised if it turns out very well. But I don't really like the direction that taken with this. Like, this is like the first Fire Emblem I've have felt very uneasy about. Like, I've at least felt optimistic for like Fates and Echoes, but this one is just something about it is just turning me off.
I think with me, it's just like you pointed out. It's kind of got that high school vibe. Like, hey, we're in class, so let's go talk to Susie. I hope she likes me. And then like later, it's got like combat, and it's supposed to be this gripping war drama. And the tone of the game is just conflicting. It doesn't really mesh with me. I don't really get it. So I think Eric, you brought up before
Type
Final
Zero.
Fantasy Type 0, and that's kind of how I got the same vibe from that game. Is just like this just doesn't seem like it's, you can't have the high five and high schoolers and then the gripping, you know war drama with the dying chocobo. It just didn't work.
Yeah, definitely not working Type Zero, man.
Nope.
But hopefully they have a better and consistent narrative in Fire Emblem Three Houses. But just from looking at it from the outside right now, I'm not really putting my hopes up.
Yeah, for sure. And they haven't done a very good job of promoting this either, because they haven't been able to get that excitement from most of their audience here. It seems like, so that's on them. But let's see here. What else we got? Let's see.
We have a comment on Three Houses from Second Entity in the chat. I don't know if you see that.
The
No,
issue
what do you
with
say?
Three Houses is that previous Fire Emblem games have been battles with management elements in between. This game looks like a management game with battles in between. Oh, I really hope it's not like that. I can see what you mean. So, yeah, I mean, I really hope it's not like that. That will really make it like Persona if that's the case.
We'll see.
Which would be unfortunate. Did you all see one thing that did catch my eye was that Dragon Ball Z RPG?
I didn't know
Kakarot.
that was an RPG.
Did you see that? It looks crazy. I wish I had watched more developer interviews and stuff, but I caught a trailer of it, and this just fascinates me. It's like looks. I don't want to say it's open. It looks pretty open to me, but it's got like Goku just flying around, like just all around the world, like the anime show, and then it's got little fights with like Vegeta and stuff. Or I guess here it says who's he fighting right here? Raditz. I don't know. I'm not up on my Dragon Ball Z lore, but this looks fascinating.
I
So-
watched some gameplay video footage, and
I'm watching some of the gameplay footage right now, and it doesn't look that bad to me. It looks exciting.
It doesn't look bad gameplay wise, but it kind of turns me off when you watch the show. What happens is Raditz comes, reveals everything to Goku, beats up Krillin, then and beats him up, then takes Gohan, and then him and Piccolo join forces and go straight to Raditz to save Gohan. And what I saw in the gameplay was that happened, but then you go on the open world to where Raditz is, and then Bulma is calling you and saying, "Hey, you should check out this robot down here," or like there'll be a good time to collect some stuff from this cave. And I'm like, Bulma, no, it's not. I need to go save my son. Stop telling me to get the side quest to go get some money. Goku doesn't give a damn at all about money. He lives in the middle of nowhere.
He's got one outfit. Yeah.
In one outfit. Like, that's not something that having the show. That would be a serious pace killer. And it makes me think it's one of those games that's just going to go through the ropes and like the general broad strokes of the show, and then just like have a bunch of like filler in between stuff. Now, granted, the combat looks fun. It looks like an improvement of Budokai Tenkaichi. Those games on the PS2.
Oh yeah.
So it looks good on that front, but those parts always turn me off.
My history with Dragon Ball Z, right, is when I was a kid, they would play the episodes on Cartoon Network, and I would sit there and watch them, and they always ended on those god awful cliffhangers. And Cartoon Network would always play it to like one specific episode, and then it would be a cliffhanger. And then I would wait till the next day to watch the next episode, and they would start the entire show over again. And it would just drive me nuts. And we'd go one episode further the next time. Drove me nuts. Eventually, I just grew out of it, I think. But
Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
and then they would start off with like the first episode again. I would just, oh my God, I would lose my mind. But anyways, with this game, I think it looks cool. I kind of want to check it out. But probably a lot of what Eric is saying here is truth. It's probably going to be filled with a lot of filler content and everything, but I'm not the biggest Dragon Ball fan here, but I think it's a cool idea. It looks really cool.
I think Dragon Ball Fighters was really great just for the fact not only is it a fantastic fighting game, but it had just like an original story to it. Like it's a non-canon story, obviously, but it's a really cool what if type of story. Like you get all these villains that come back and like all these heroes that come back. So you have interesting dialogue. Like there's interesting dialogue between like Nappa and Gohan, I think. And they're like conversing about stuff that happened in the past, or like I'm much more powerful than you now. Or like Nappa and Vegeta, like today Vegeta, like good guy Vegeta, like interacting with Nappa, and like them having like a conversation and everything. So that's really fun to see, and that's stuff I like in the Dragon Ball games. It's really weird when they try to recreate parts of the show, and it just comes off as weird and shallow, at least to me.
I don't know. I'm a more casual, super casual fan, I guess you could say. So it doesn't necessarily bother me, but I could understand why that might bother certain people. So, but Standard Bio, does this game appeal to you at all?
I think it looks pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, I didn't really know that this was really like an RPG at all. But yeah, I mean, we get to have another Dragon Ball RPG. Not very often we can say that, because that hasn't really happened very often. And this one actually, it looks pretty big, pretty open. Looks like there'll be a lot of different stuff to do, though mostly probably your typical fetch quest kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
doesn't look bad.
Yeah, I don't expect it to be like, the next Witcher 3 or something, but
It's graphically good looking too. I mean, the effort definitely looks like it's there, and it can be a fun game. It's just some weird stuff about it. As a Dragon Ball fan, it's just a lot of weird elements to me.
hey, you can fish though.
Yeah, Goku pulls his tail out,
I'm
sticks it on himself, and fishes. Adult Goku, not kid Goku.
I didn't know he could do that. Is that a thing he can do? Like he can just pull his tail out and then
He's never done that in the show.
And then stick it on his back like
Yeah, I've never seen that happen either.
I thought it was
what adult Goku has done. He's straight out jumped in the water and grabbed the fish and came out. That's what adult Goku does.
Well, we're not criticizing the game for the fishing minigame. Anyways,
I am. Get it right.
I want a VR fishing game from this.
You know what I like about it?
What's that?
Just from looking at this gameplay, Goku is level 4, yet he has over 8,000 HP. And normally JRPGs and RPGs in general can go really crazy, but with these outrageous like high number values for damage and health and everything. But if it ever made sense to put that in your RPG, it belongs in your Dragon Ball Z RPG, I think, yeah.
I wonder if they're gonna how far they're gonna go with like simulating the story. Like, are they gonna have Goku standing there and he's gonna like they have like a little prompt to like start like pressing the circle button over and over again while he's just like screaming and like he's slowly going like Super Saiyan and like you just have to keep pressing that circle button with the more intensity to try to get him there until like while he watches HP get higher and higher. Uh, that would be absolutely ridiculous.
It already bothers me that he's not using Nimbus to get to Raditz. Because flying wasn't really a concept until after the Saiyan saga.
Well, they need a cool way to get around. It would kind of suck if you just had to like walk.
Just saying, I'm a nitpicker, and I'm not as big as a Dragon Ball Z fan as probably some other people are going to buy.
Yeah,
this
that's
game.
probably
They're
other
gonna be
people are just
super nitpicky.
losing their mind right now.
I mean, I love Dragon Ball Z. I'll watch that show any day. It's one of my favorites. But I mean, there's some people who are just super crazy about it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, there's that. Let's see. What other is there anything else on here y'all want to talk about? There's one quick thing I wanted to point out on the Dark Crystal game, the Dark Crystal Age of Resistance Tactics game. It's based off the movie show deal, right? This game looks horrible, and the reason I say it looks horrible is because it's got all this epic music playing, and it's got like this very like over the top like narration that kind of like gets you pumped up. But then when you go to look at the actual gameplay, it's so slow and like not exciting at all. It just doesn't mesh well with that like over the top narration. And if you go to about 45 seconds, 44 seconds. Okay, I'm going to pause it here for a second. I'm going to go to 44 seconds. There's this character on the right-hand screen here, and this person casts like a fireball or something at this other character over here. And when they do that, it hits this pillar right here. And this is a trailer. Keep in mind, this isn't like some like weird like, bug or anything. This is a trailer. Like they wanted this in there. The fireball hits this pillar right here, and then the character on the left actually spins and like acts like he was hit by the pillar
before it hits him.
before the pillar actually hits him. Like watch right here. Watch his head. It's what was that? What was that? This is so like oh my god.
It's probably my guess is it probably just has that kind of canned animation for many other types of attacks that will hit him, right?
Yeah.
But the animation of the pillar falling over is delayed, like he triggers his falling over animation before the pillars actually hit him. So it does look strange though.
Like shovelware company for it.
I don't know who made this. Who made this?
I saw it said Netflix on it, but it didn't mention. I didn't see where they said a specific game company. Chances are Netflix hired some shovelware company to.
Yeah, it's just
make it.
It's just the dark. It says the Netflix Dark Crystal series is being turned into a tactics video game. Does it say at the end who made?
Will be buried somewhere in the fine print.
Because Netflix, Nintendo Switch, Bonus XP, Crafton. I don't know. I never heard of any of those.
What?
Yeah, it's like the Square Enix A team.
It's from Bonus XP.
Oh yeah, I don't know who that is, but good job.
That definitely sounds like a lower end indie company or shovelware company, one of the two. That's my note.
Yeah, I'm trying to look on here and see if there's anything else we should hit. I mean, we already talked about Oninaki to death, and they didn't really reveal anything new, so you can catch our thoughts in prior episodes unless you guys had anything. The only interesting one I think I personally saw that we haven't brought up was just the Phantasy Star 2 online too. That was kind of an interesting announcement that was kind of a big deal, right? Because it's been like 7 years since this game came out, and it
came out in 2011, I believe.
Oh, so 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time in the West, right?
Yes. No, it was supposed to come out in 2013, but as you can see, it got a slight delay. But it looks like they did say before they It would be costly to bring it to the West, but it looks like Microsoft took it out of their hands and just decided to let it just be run on their servers. But the cool thing on top of that is that Microsoft is not only allowing it to be Xbox One and PC, but they said they're going to eventually open it up to PS4 and Switch eventually.
Yeah.
So it looks like Microsoft wants everyone to play the game. And it's going to have all the content from the 8 years that were not, except like event crossover stuff.
That's pretty sick. That it's just going to launch with that much material.
And I can tell you this, it will take you a very long time to complete all that content before like you even like engage in in-game stuff. Like it will take you a long while.
But what do you make of the fact that it's free to play? Does that
when I played the Japanese version, how the free to play worked is you can play the whole game without spending a dime. Like you can play all the story mode stuff. Nothing is unaccessible to you in that regard. Where they do try to get you is when you decide to participate in in-game, and they have a thing called Hunter's License. And for like $9.99 a month, if you sign up to it, what you get is you get additional inventory space, more quality of life stuff. You get access to buy from the auction house the highest star rated rare items in the game. Like if you have the normal version, you can't access that.
Yeah.
But if you do have a paid, you do. So the thing is really for people who want to join and do heavy end game. If you just want to play through the game and just play through its story, see what it is, and maybe casually play in game, then you can not get that hunter license and be just fine.
Interesting. And I'm impressed that you played the Japanese version too.
They have an unofficial English patch that you could play.
Oh, okay. So I thought you were just like trying to play it in Japanese and not knowing what the hell's going on.
And you could play it enough that you can read like the menus and gameplay, but it didn't do much in terms of like story content. So I only really played the gameplay of it and didn't engage in the story. So the story is going to still be new to me when I first play it.
That's for sure. I don't know. It kind of appeals to me that they're going to have that much content. The thing is, that sounds like that's going to take me forever to get through. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like, well, it's awesome that there's so much content, so I could just be endlessly entertained. But it's almost intimidating the amount of content that's going to be there.
It could be a good in between. Like if you play a game and
you're
waiting for something else, you can pick that up and just continue with it.
And it is free, right? So it's not like you're paying this monthly fee.
Yeah, free to play.
Oh, that's cool. That's pretty cool. Was there anything else you all wanted to bring up? I know, Eric, you probably wanted to talk about Shadowbringers.
I have a question for Eric regarding Phantasy Star.
Understand, or any of our fans will understand. So, if anyone watches this and wants FF14 talk with me, you know where I am on Discord. I'll just say that much.
Dan, you said you wanted to ask Eric a question?
Yeah, I have a quick question for Phantasy Star Online 2.
Yeah.
In this trailer, there's a line where it says Japan's greatest online RPG. And I was wondering if you were offended by that statement.
Yeah, it's better than Dragon Quest X.
Are they saying it's better than
Final
FF14?
Fantasy 14?
Sounds like fighting words to me.
Oh, I don't know.
I think the gloves are coming off.
I think everyone says their MMO is the greatest of all time.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Sounds like, 14's not really living up to...
I will say in terms of like 3D action RPGs, I think that's like more akin to like Diablo than World of Warcraft, which Phantasy Star Online 2 pretty much is. More closer to Diablo than the MMO like World of Warcraft FF14. It's one of the top ranked ones for me. Like it's a really good dungeon crawler.
I just saw that statement and was thinking, I wonder how many people are taking issue with that.
Well, so you
just
heard
from
it,
the very beginning, yeah.
You heard it here
because I know FF14 is the best one.
I don't know. I feel like you just admitted Phantasy Star 2 Online is better than Final Fantasy 14.
hmm
That's been documented.
I'm just saying, you guys might not see me after June 28th when the expansion comes out.
Yeah. So just real quick, just quickly hit the ones we haven't talked about, and you all can just stop me. We have The Last Remnant Remastered. We have The War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. We have Dragon Quest Builders 2. We have Oninaki. We have Nino Kuni coming to Switch, which was kind of interesting. Baldur's Gate 3, we should probably briefly talk about that. But we have Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. That looked kind of interesting. Dragon Quest 11 coming to the Switch with the 16-bit version. That's really cool, but we've talked a lot about that. Those are the ones that obviously 14 Shadowbringers. Is there anything of those that kind of ring a bell for y'all and pull the heartstrings and say, man, I'm looking forward to that?
The second Brave Exvius game is a more game like tactics, which kind of surprising to me, which
Yeah,
brings some interest, but I'm kind of wondering how they'll screw it up with the free to play structure.
Yeah, when we were watching this, the moment we saw that phone, I was like, okay, I don't want to watch this anymore. I started immediately making fun of it, but then they started showing some of the gameplay, and this actually looks pretty good. Like it looks like a Final Fantasy Tactics game. Like they actually put some work into it, and I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to try this.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to try it also.
It's
just
what
worried
kind of
about what are they going to do to screw it up and make it not enjoyable.
Yeah, what kind of shenanigans are put into here to make me spend money? You know, I have in-game currency. It's called Gil. I don't want to spend my actual money.
Well, I think it's stuff like, all right, so every time I like on the in the map on tactics, like each battle is meaningful feeling and like have some grand feeling to it. On top of it, I get this funny feeling they're going to do something similar where they're going to be like, well, you want to make sure you do like a quick match every mobile play and be like, have like 1 to 2 guys on the screen or tactical and it takes like 2 minutes to beat. And it's like, congratulations, you're the winner. And it does like a whole series of those until you get like a story segment.
And reward you like daily for logging in and doing like 2 or 3 of those. And so you feel like you have to keep coming back and playing. And
yeah, because if you play the first Brave Exvius, it's like you do like 5 encounters in a row, and then you get like a story fight after that. And then you get like the occasional I can explore a town. But it's still like a point and click, do this battle. Now, granted, that would work for a tactics game, but I have a feeling they're going to do something like that.
Yeah, they're going to implement some kind of reward structure flow, right, to the game. So that it's...
And a stamina bar, probably.
Yeah, and then when you get 10, 15 hours into the game, all of a sudden that reward structure is stretched out, you know, unless you pay some kind of premium currency or if you just wait. You know, that's seems to be the strategy of these mobile games, most of them anyway.
I do have it paused on showing some of the dialogue with the avatars for the characters, and it's so clearly, you know, Final Fantasy Tactics inspired, which is awesome. But just like you guys said, they're going to implement some kind of reoccurring cycle that you have to continue with that waters down the experience.
The artwork is great.
Yeah, I was about to say it looks pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wish I could just play this on my PC and just without all that nonsense and just kind of.
You can. If you
but I'm still gonna have to do the free to play elements, right?
I feel like these mobile games, if they just had like a $20 version of them where you actually have to pay, but then like all the filler and kind of monetization strategy of microtransactions was just pulled out of the game because you paid up front, they would have way less backlash, you know.
There'd actually be excitement.
Yeah, we understand that like there's people who don't want to pay anything for a mobile game, right? They grew up in, you know, the Android Apple gaming landscape, and they understand that we shouldn't be. Well, they feel like if it's a game on the phone, it should be free, right? And paying should be optional. But then there's other people, more seasoned gamers, I guess you would say, that would say, no, I would much rather put down $10 to $20 for a game of this quality and have no microtransactions whatsoever. And
I
so if
mean,
you could actually split your game and design it a little bit differently and have two versions of it, there would be way less backlash against these mobile type of games.
I
I would,
agree.
but yeah, I was just gonna say, just I also agree, but um, I would what you call a very seasoned, and, and that, dude, I remember when the first time I heard the idea that, like, for example, Final Fantasy 11, that like, what, you want me to pay money every single month to play this?
Mhm.
Every single month. And I remember thinking, that's absurd. And then, like, I kept seeing, obviously we all know the history, but for a while there, like, MMO games like really exploded, and it was like all over the internet, like, oh, like, is this the new norm? Like, and everyone was trying to come out with their own online game and everything like that. So, like, even that, like, in my mind, I remember like thinking was absurd. And now you look at it now, and it's like people are just swiping their credit card to buy gyms,
Right.
like on like every other day and stuff, and it's crazy.
There was definitely pushback to the subscription model of the online RPGs back then.
Yeah.
But you could sort of rationalize it like, well, it's not free to run servers,
Right, and they're
for
adding
everybody to
content.
meet up and play on the game. Yeah, and then they have events and stuff that they add to the game to try and make it.
Money to create content.
Yeah. So from that perspective, it makes sense. For mobile games, charging you real money for a digital item of which infinity of them exist makes no sense. Like,
I think FF15 Pocket Edition did it a great way. Now, it stems from like the Final Fantasy Dimensions 1 and what they did, but this is a more recent example. What they did is they gave you the first chapter for free. They let you test the game out, see the beginning of the story, make sure your device can run it just fine. And then to play the rest of them, they will charge you then. They will charge you to play the rest of the game. So you at least get the first episode and tell yourself, okay, this is a game I want to get into. I'm willing to drop $20 on it to play the rest of it.
Mhm.
That is like, I think that's like the most absolute best way to get these games sold to people. The problem is there's just way too much money to be made in the free to play gotcha system. It's just such a moneymaker. But the problem with Square Enix in particular is they have so many of these games out, especially with ones labeled as Final Fantasy, that it's become so saturated to the point that when these new games come out, people are getting sick of it and don't want to put money towards it anymore. It's like I've already put money towards Opera Omnia. I've put it towards Mobius. I've put it towards the first Brave Exvius. It's like, why are you trying to get me to put uh, even more money into this game? And some people see that and they're getting sick of it. So I really hope this is like a turnaround. And Brave Exvius, and this second Brave Exvius game is just like a full game you could buy. I don't think it will, but
No.
I do hope that they handle the gotcha in some way. Like that's like not very intrusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll just wait to hear what people's impressions are with this specific game, War of the Visions, Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. Man, that's way too long of a name. Cherry on top complaint. That's way too long.
There's long
Yeah.
out there. That is a pretty long one.
Yeah. So, but anyways, there's that. Was there anything else y'all wanted to talk about? I know some of our listeners have been asking about Baldur's Gate 3. I played Baldur's Gate 2 when I was in school on my PC. I loved it, and I kind of fell out of touch with the series. I haven't played it in maybe 15 years, but I really, really did enjoy it. The trailer, it was some craziness. Didn't show any gameplay from what I saw, which, I want to see gameplay. So I don't know. Like as a premise, it looks pretty interesting, but I don't really have much else to say aside from that. Unfortunately, sorry if that disappoints you all, but there's
Sure.
not much there for me to talk about. What's up?
I don't have much to say either. I mean, the trailer looked cool, but um, there's not much for me to say beyond that. I mean, I'm I'm excited to play it. I like the second game.
Yeah, but man, this is just wild.
Uh,
Yes.
do you two have any
Um,
thoughts about this, or
yeah, I've never played like an actual Baldur's Gate game. The only one I've played was Dark Alliance on PS2, which I hear is like really
Wait.
different from the
Yeah, I was
main
gonna
one.
say that's like a way different direction, but I like that one too. I played that with a friend of mine, and we had a great time. Went through the whole game, but yeah,
But yeah, that's the only one I played, so that's like my only thing about that. But I know a friend of mine recently told me saying that like that I should play 2 like on Steam because he said that it actually still does like age like really well for what the game is.
yeah. It's a very long game, that's for sure, but it's definitely has a lot of depth and really rewards you for going out there and searching out those nooks and crannies. So, yeah, but that's Baldur's Gate 3. Well, maybe if they can release some more information. I saw that it's coming to the Google Stadia, which is kind of interesting, and the Switch, which is even more interesting, I guess. So,
Yeah, I think all the Baldur's Gate games are coming to the Switch now, like 1 and 2 and Neverwinter Nights and all that.
yeah, it's kind of interesting because I kind of I don't know how that's gonna really function with on the Switch with the controllers and everything like that, but apparently it's gonna work fine. So, let's see here. We anything else y'all want to talk about? There's the Kingdom Hearts 3 DLC. I don't really know what to say about that. I'm about Kingdom Hearts out. I think at this point, I enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't have any interest in playing this DLC at this point in time. The trailer is strange.
they
It just
didn't
has
show what's new coming from it? They just showed there's probably gonna be a little more story bits to it.
they have words on the screen and you can't hear what they're saying, and it's just like, what are you
Oh,
doing?
do the new. I want to see what the new end game bosses are going to be.
Oh,
They'll show that. I'm not very interested.
yeah. So I don't know. There's that. It's exciting that Nino Kuni is coming to the Switch. I still haven't played that game. I hear it's really, really good.
It is
So,
really good.
so I definitely want to check that out. I love the art style. I think
Oh
that's
yeah.
really awesome. So you were a Nino Kuni fan, Bio?
Yeah, I like the first one. I never played 2 though, but yeah, from when I played the first one, I thought it was pretty good. And yeah, the art style is, it's like Ghibli Studios, so of course I'm all about that.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, it's got Ghibli written all over it, even beyond the graphics. Like the
Yeah.
story flow and everything is very, very Ghibli.
Yeah. So this looks really, really good. So I'm thinking that this might be a good version for me to try. And because I mean, this type of game, because you don't really necessarily need to play it on, in 4K or something like to appreciate it. This art style. So playing it on the Switch would probably be perfect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
So
might play it again on the Switch if it's on sale.
yeah. Let's see here. I think that's about it. I mean, we've already talked to death about Dragon Quest 11. We were really excited for that 16-bit version that's coming out on the Switch, so that's really, really exciting. We've talked about Oninaki. We're not really too excited about it, but if it gets
We're
good
hopeful
reviews,
for it.
yeah, hopeful. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. They've been beating a dead horse for a year and a half. I feel like that was the first game they announced for the Switch. That was a Final Fantasy game.
It's
Coming out
notable.
sometime later this year.
Yeah, and it's like the last one to come out almost.
Yeah.
But it's also coming to PS4 and Android and iOS devices.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if it'll be crossplay. I don't know if it will or will not, but that'd be really cool if someone on their tablet can play with someone on their Switch.
Oh.
That'd be
Oh.
kind of.
Oh, go on.
I was just gonna say that'd be cool. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, I know this wasn't shown at like E3, but I think they showed it like not long after. But they actually do have. I actually forgot about this until Joker mentioned it. But East 9, they made a new gameplay trailer of that like not long ago. That I remember watching it. I was like, damn, looks good.
I've been meaning to
Was it?
try
Hold on.
my Yeast 8, and like people keep recommending it to me. Then I look, I'm like, oh wait, it's a Falcom game. I don't know if I want to.
Yeah.
But they say the gameplay on it's really good. So, but the thing is, it's so expensive to get a physical copy of it. I saw it; it was like 60, um, like the full $60
Which game are we talking
for
about?
Oh, for East
Switch
8.
digital, and then when you look for a physical copy, like people are selling it from like 70 to $90. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not
Yeah,
that curious about it.
yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but yeah, no, like the game prices in that game like doesn't go down. It's so weird. But I can say for someone that's played it, like played DSA from like day one, like even before that like big patch that they made, I still like really enjoyed it a lot. In fact, I'd say it's probably one of my favorite ones in the series.
Really? So
Yeah,
there's this number 9 Monstrum Nox, I think, gameplay trailer. Is that the one Joker
yeah,
was talking about? I can
yeah,
pull
yeah.
that up on a screen. We can bring it up because that was released around the same time. But I've never really gotten into. I haven't actually, to be honest, I haven't given them a chance. But they've always kind of appealed to me whenever I've seen them around. They've been around for a very, very long time.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like back in like MSX days.
yeah, so it's definitely a veteran franchise, but um, yeah, it looks cool. Tell us a little bit about what you enjoy about these games.
Well, I just love like, like the action of it and, just like exploring and, doing all like the cool usual stuff. And of course the music, like every single East game has like some of like the greatest like video games OSTs in my opinion. Like I just love like all of it. And also their stories are usually pretty good too. Like they do seem kind of like basic stuff at first, it's just like, oh, just, you're idle, you get lost somewhere, stranded on an island, blah blah blah. But
Yeah,
but
standard
I
JRPG affair. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like at first it does seem like your average stuff,
Uh
but
huh.
then when you play through them like later on, it does get some pretty interesting stuff. And also I know in like some of the later ones, they I think they did also add in some interesting characters too to make it more fun.
Interesting. Very,
Yeah.
very interesting. Which one should I check out first if I wanted to jump in your opinion? I think you already said it, but can you repeat it?
I'd say, well, it depends on which one, which style you prefer, because
Okay.
these games have different like ways. Like I know, like there's like the really old, like traditional way, which was like where you like it's top down like Zelda, but instead of like swinging your sword freely, you just bump into enemies and it like attacks for you. It's kind of like that really crappy NES game Highlight, but not as bad. Like there's that, and then there's like some of the other ones where it's also top down, but you can freely swing around, and then um yeah, like I said, with like the newer ones or like there were some of the remakes, like it's like this where it's like fully 3D and hack and slash, but has like RPG elements and all that good stuff.
Cool.
But as for a single one though, I think maybe like the remake of East 4, because they recently
Yeah.
put that on Steam not that long ago. And it was also on the Vita too, but like if you don't have a Vita, then I get it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good one though to start out with because it does kind of feel like a little bit like old school, but also doesn't feel like archaic either.
hmm I will echo those thoughts because uh, Memories of Celceta, right, is what it's called, which is the remake of Ys 4. I played that on the Vita,
That
and
was really good.
that was the first Ys game I played, and it was good. I liked it. It's a action JRPG style, very fast paced. Uh, like the gameplay encourages you to be very aggressive. Um, yeah, it's solid, and I think it's like $25 on Steam, the Steam version of it,
That's a good
which
deal.
came out, I don't know, several months back. But it's like, so
Wow.
if you're a little hesitant to jump in and see what it's all about, that's maybe a better price point than the E8. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'll have to,
as much as I love East 8, like I think 4 is a good starting point because it is cheaper and it's still a really good game too.
um, I don't know. It looks interesting. Like I can't believe I've never played a single one from this franchise. Now I feel like I gotta check it out. Especially being an RPG podcast, I have to at least dive in somewhere and have some kind of reference point. So sounds like number 4, the remake, is a good place to dive in. So
Maybe that series will be more up my alley. No, unfortunately, Trails in the Sky wasn't
a
for me.
little too slow paced, right?
Man, the pacing of that game. Oof.
Yeah, as someone as a fan of Trails, I can understand that because even the first game, like there were parts of it that even I got a little bit bored too. But I did love that ending reveal of it though. But obviously, I'm not gonna spoil it.
don't. Yeah, I haven't finished it. So don't spoil nothing. I didn't. I didn't dislike it as. I didn't mind it. I've liked what I've played thus far. I plan on finishing it. I just have so many games to get to, but um, you know, I can emulate it on my PS Classic, by the way, so that really impressed me. So that's another reason for me to dive back in. I think I'd have to start from the beginning, obviously, but I don't. Yeah, I'm in. I'm game. So
Oh, well.
all right, guys. I think we're about 2 hours and 40 minutes, so that's about an hour longer than I thought. But I think we got to call it quits here. BioPhoenix.
People,
Yep.
wait, just before we do, people have anything they really want us to talk about next week? Put it in the comments or put it in our Discord, and we'll see if we can make any special mentions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's probably a few things we glossed over or games we didn't address that you saw sitting in my playlist there that you're like, oh, pick that one, and
You
then
can't cover
we just
everything.
we just
There's
didn't
only
pick
so
it.
much we can talk about in 3 hours.
Yeah.
So we tried our best, guys. We tried our best. So but make sure you all go check out BioPhoenix's YouTube page. Again, I'm gonna go ahead and post it here in the comment section. I'll post it in the description. But y'all should go check it out. BioPhoenix, you do a video like almost every day, don't you?
Well, not every day, no.
It seems like you do. Like you put them out like frequently. It's like
I
at
put
least
them out at least like once a week, or like maybe like once
it?
like a week and a day.
Maybe you went through a period where you were doing them more. I don't know, but it seems
Oh,
like. Go
okay,
ahead.
sorry. I know sometimes like I know before like I used to do like an anime feature where I would make like a month where I would just upload them like a daily, just for
Yes. Okay,
were
that must have been what I was thinking.
used to do. But I don't do that anymore because oh my god, I got so burnt out on doing that.
Yeah, I can only imagine trying to do a video like every single day. That would just be, ugh. Even if it's just watching an anime and then trying to review that. Like, granted, it doesn't take as much time to substantially go through a video game, but yeah, that can definitely wear on your psyche trying to get that out every day. So I
Oh
I
yeah,
can definitely understand that.
but yeah, no, like I do put but like out videos pretty frequently, but at the same time, like I said, like I always work like way ahead of time, and so therefore, like I can like take breaks like from like doing videos, but without like you guys like leaving you hanging there.
Yeah, I can kind of get that because you've mentioned that before. Well, you'll do a bunch of them ahead of time, and then that way, if you need to take a little break or you got a particular game you want to get into, you can have that freedom to do that because you put the hard work in first. So that's a philosophy me and Eric do not have, or a strategy of me and Eric do not have. So maybe we'll have to adopt something like that in the future. But all right, so thank you again, BioPhoenix, and Stan slash. I've been calling you Stan the whole time, but some people know you as Dude or Dude McGuy,
Yeah.
as he is.
Yeah, that's me on Discord.
As he is known in some circles. So thank you for joining us for this podcast, and we appreciate both you all coming on. And it's always good to have some extra people here to kind of bounce ideas off of, especially when you can talk about games that we're not really knowledgeable on. So we appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, no problem.
Yeah,
For sure. Thanks for having me.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But
thanks for coming on, guys.
all right, guys. So that was it for this week, and next week we'll be back with another podcast. And please let us know what you want us to talk about. But until then, we'll talk to you later, guys. Daisy.
All right, take care.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.